With a 4-year apprenticeship and certifications in OSHA safety, first aid, and CPR, we deliver quality you can trust. When you need roofing done right, choose Roofers Local 26, protecting what matters most for over a century. For more information, visit www.roofers26.com.
Introducing Powers Health, a health system with a new name and a strong legacy of caring for families in our community. One with a tradition of advanced specialized services and a vision for the future. One with a commitment to medical excellence and compassionate care. Everything we do, everything we believe, powers health.
Do you like to work with your hands, creating something from nothing? Then think about Laborers Local 41. You'll get 432 hours of apprenticeship training, all while earning a wage with benefits and incurring no student debt. You'll travel to different job sites, learn tons of skills, and in a lot of cases, be the first one on and last one off a job site. It all starts at laborers41.com.
Experience a better way of home building with McFarland Homes. For over 25 years, McFarland Homes has been crafting high-quality homes right here in Northwest Indiana. Founded by Ron McFarland, our team of experts is committed to building homes that stand the test of time. Discover the comfort of a McFarland home in beautifully planned communities like Park West in St. John and Beacon Point West and Cedar Lake single-family community. With options like open floor plans, spacious master suites, and sun-filled Florida rooms, there's a McFarland home that's perfect for you. McFarland Homes, building a better way of living.
Cherish every moment. Enjoy every aspect of life. Laugh and smile. Family Dental Care loves what we do, and it shows in every smile we make. Attentive, respectful doctors listen and use advanced technology to pinpoint the problem. Patients are then in and out with same-day service. Let Family Dental Care protect your teeth so you can focus on what's important in life.
Visit our website at FamilyDentalCare.com for an office near you to request an appointment.
Hey, good morning, Region. Chuck Pullen with you on a beautiful Monday morning, 6:02 here in the region. You're listening to AM 1230, 104.7 FM in beautiful Hammond, Indiana. We're going to mix things up a little bit, so I'm going to get right to it. We're going to do traffic and weather, and we're going to bring in our guest. Bob is out today. He will be back next week, he promises, and things will get back to normal. Let's take a quick look at traffic. 8094, 65, Skyway Toll Road, everything looking great on the Indiana side. On the Illinois side, Bishop Ford getting a little tight into the Dan Ryan. Dan Ryan looking a little sticky, like 35th on in. We'll keep an eye on it. Nothing serious at this point. Everything else, 80, 294, everything else looking good in Illinois. Lynette, how's the weather?
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 74 degrees with highs of 92 and lows of 72. Going to have a brief shower this morning, otherwise hot and humid with times of clouds and sun. And tomorrow on Tuesday, we'll be having highs of 91 and lows of 73. Should be hot and humid with sunshine interrupted by clouds at times. Then Wednesday, we'll be having highs of 95 and lows of 71. Should be mostly sunny, hot, and humid.
I hate it when those rude clouds interrupt the sun. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to do something a little different. We're not going to talk about NIPSCO. We're not going to talk about any of the things. We're not going to talk about the storm. We're going to completely change topics because something major happened while we were all focused on the storm, and that was the national debt hitting $40 trillion. So what I want to do, we're going to bring in our guest. We're going to talk to him about the debt. We're going to try to take your calls in the second segment. So we're going to do about 40 minutes here. So we're going to just kind of power through this. Again, this is one of those things that for a lot of people, you may not understand it. You may go, I don't get it. It's such a big number. I can't even process it. Why does it affect me? All those things. All these things that, again, I use the joke. I've been on these airways for like $20 trillion, and I try to make it a point to talk about this, but it's such just a daunting subject. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in sort of an expert on it, and then we're going to talk a little bit about it. So is David ready? Go ahead. Bring him in. David, good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. David Olivencia. So tell people a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Yeah, excellent. So just background, grew up in Whiting, went to Bishop Knoll, then went to Rolls-Holman, studied engineering, rode the boom of the technology wave, got an MBA at Notre Dame, so rounded that off with business, worked in multiple Fortune 100 companies. Traveled the world. I got about 2 million airline miles, consulting, working with large businesses. And I'd say the last 6, 7 years have been investing in startups and venture. And I'm a venture capitalist, investing in a lot of startups. I also serve on 2 corporate boards. One is a company called Schurz Communications out of Mishawaka. The second is Wintrust Indiana, or Old Plank Trail Bank, which is a charter of Wintrust. Then I authored a book on networking. So those are, and currently live in Munster, Indiana.
So
Maybe the last thing
go ahead.
is that I also write a newsletter on exponential growth topics, right? And so I'm always looking at things that are growing rapidly and exponentially, and I write about them. And then most recently, one of the topics, and there's many, whether it's AI, robots, launches of space, data centers, there's all kinds of exponential things that are hitting us rapidly. But the one thing that kind of caught this attention was the rapid exponential growth in our debt, in our national debt.
Well, and I was going to also say, since you're a local guy in Munster, your neighbor Jim Didolo, station owner, will probably reach out to you at some point and give you a podcast, because that's what he does whenever we have a very well-rounded guest. So if you want to do a podcast with us, you want to join us, I'm sure he'll reach out to you. Okay, but so let's get into a little bit about sort of your background before we get into the debt. So it's interesting, when you talk a lot about investment banking and things like that. It's interesting to me. And again, these are things that I didn't kind of mention to you, but again, you can kind of, work around it if stuff you want to just move on to a different topic. But it's interesting to me. So like, for instance, I did a little bit of work with Citadel and Ken Griffin and stuff like that. It's interesting to see sort of, I'm going to call it the demonization of investors, the demonization of sort of, when you start talking about venture capital and stuff like that. It's interesting to see, again, this is sort of the driver of the economy. And a lot of people, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what changed. You talk about the tech boom. I was around for the tech boom, and I was like, what a time to be alive when you look back on it, just what a wild ride that was. But it's interesting to me how sort of investing, being a banker, Wall Street, all that stuff has been demonized in the last few years. What do you think is causing that?
I think maybe one part of it is that there's a big divide in the country. I mean, I think you've got a wealthy, whether it's an investor class, a wealthy tech class, and then you've got a lot of people that have been really left behind, and it's unfortunate. And I think there's a lot of deeper systems, systematic things that are happening there. So I think there's a lot of resentment of, if you've got a large, the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer. I mean, that's a sad reality. And there's maybe things around the education system, maybe things about different government programs, things about financial literacy, that I would say would maybe help that. Now, taking a step back, though, I think whether it's investing, capital, small business creation, those are the fundamental things that have made this, made our country great. And the as bad as it might be here, this is really the best place in the world and in the history of the world to grow up, live, and thrive, and be born here and really, succeed and become, I guess, start a business, grow it to be a multi-billion dollar business. In other parts around the world, if you're born poor, you pretty much stay that way. Here, you have the opportunity to grow. So, a little bit longer answer, and it's not an easy answer to your question there. But those are just kind of how I'm seeing how people might look at it. But those are my thoughts.
No, look, I mean, at the end of the day, this is, is multifaceted. There's no easy answer. I mean, none of this has an easy answer. And I think that's a lot of why people don't talk about it. But even to your point, like this idea, it's always funny when I meet people and they talk about their doom and gloom. Everything's terrible, all these horrible things. I say, look, just stop for a second and think about the fact that you live, I mean, statistically, like right now, we're living in the safest time. I mean, most people don't have food scarcity in this country. Literally on your phone, you can have a food delivered to your house in minutes. You know what I mean? Like you live better than kings did 400 or 500 years ago. You live such a great life, and yet here you are miserable, looking for things to be miserable. And it's an interesting thing. I keep saying, I wonder if, I spend a lot of time to sort of, reading people's comments and thoughts on social media, it's sort of like, I wonder if because you have it so good, you have to find things to be mad about or to be miserable about because you have everything. You have food at your fingertips. You have, all of these resources just comes to you. And so you have to find things to be mad about. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, look, you have everything and you're still looking for a reason to be mad. So it's always interesting to me to see that, that side of people. But okay. So like I said, I mean, I'm one of the few people, we were talking about this a little bit last week about the idea that the debt is probably the biggest issue that people don't want to talk about and people don't understand. And even last week, the owner, Jim Delo, and I were talking about the idea that there was an article, I was trying to get the link to it, but basically an article saying that nobody's talking about it. We hit $40 trillion, which is just a monumental number, but the media doesn't talk about it. On the politics side, very few people address it. So let's just kind of start there. Why do you think, but I guess let's start there. Why do you think that the debt is being ignored by so many people?
I think they're becoming numb to it. It's almost like maybe your credit card bill, you get, well, for some, if you have a credit card bill and just kind of up there, it's kind of numb to it. Obviously politicians don't want to talk about it because it's a difficult subject for them. They either got to solve it. There's a bunch of ways, but none of them are really pleasant in how you solve it. The media, I think media, I don't think they get a lot of clicks from it. Like they're better talking about, I don't know, a bad incident that happens in a city or something like that, right? Like clickbait. So those are just a couple reasons. And I think but maybe the other thing too is just, I don't think the general public really understand it and the implications of it. So I think maybe those three things together, I think are not making it a top headline story. I mean, it was in the Wall Street Journal and a couple other things, they put it out there, but it's like people read it and it's like, oh, okay, interesting. But, it's been going up. It's been, so I believe there's a numbness to it as well.
Well, here's the interesting thing. So basically every topic that we talk about when it comes to financials comes back to the debt. When people say, well, why are groceries so expensive? Why is my gas going up? Why are taxes going up? Why is my dollar not going as far as it did? Every single issue can fundamentally come back to the debt, and yet again, we ignore it. And we talk about the symptoms. We talk about, well, how do we deal with the symptoms? I was thinking the other day, just sort of even, again, going back to sort of the politics about this idea of, we have sort of this rise of like the DSA on the left and things like that. And it's interesting to me that we have this issue of debt spending, and yet everyone's solution seems to be spend more money, right? Tax people more money and spend more money. Never does cutting come into the equation. And I use the example all the time. It's sort of like when somebody's overweight, you need to go on a diet, you know that you need to do it, but it's like, and I use the example like in Congress, it's sort of like, everybody knows they have to go on a diet, but the food's too good, right? I mean, everybody's like, well, the food's too good, I can't go on a diet. They know they need to do it. They don't know where to start, or they don't even want to. And a lot of politicians I talk to, I mean, that's sort of the go-to answer is it's just so daunting that nobody wants to touch it. And like you said, it's a lot like Social Security, where everybody knows there's a problem, but also they think in 4-year increments where they want to get reelected. So if you're that guy who dares to say, maybe we need to fix Social Security, maybe we need to fix the debt, everybody attacks you and demonizes you. So it's an interesting thing because fundamentally everything comes back to the debt. All of our, the entire, any issue in the economy you talk about goes back to the debt, but people just don't want to address it. So, let's get into some of these numbers a little bit, because like I said, I've been on these airwaves for $20 trillion now, and I've tried to make it a point just to mention it. This is the first time I'm doing sort of a deep dive on it, but let's just get into some of these numbers for people. So we hit $40 trillion in debt. So basically, that's the debt that people always say, well, who do we owe? We owe a lot of people. We owe basically the future. We owe bondholders. It's a deficit. So right now our federal deficit is $1.8 trillion. We spend 7.5. So what does that mean? So our federal budget is essentially, like $8 trillion, or no, our budget is, our income, our budget our income is like in the $6 trillion range, basically taxes and other income, but we're spending like $8 trillion. So we have this deficit of like, $2 trillion, but also the part that is critical, and I really want to hit this, is that right now on an $8 trillion budget, $1 trillion of that is going to debt service. So again, using your credit card analogy, it's sort of like, let's say you make $80,000 a year and $10,000 of your income every year just went to credit card debt, just the interest on your credit card payments. It is daunting because you look at it and say, where could I possibly start? And I think that you made a great point, and I see this with a lot of people. The same deal with like credit card debt, medical debt. You just sort of like hide it in the closet, you hide it in a drawer somewhere and don't even want to address it. So I think you make a valid point, is that it's just such a daunting number that people just don't want to address it. But at the end of the day, and going back to your point about how debt snowballs and things like that, the longer we don't address it, the worse it's going to get. It gets, as that number grows, it gets exponentially bigger every year. So I think that's the key to this, is just sort of the longer we go not addressing it, the more exponentially worse it gets. I mean, we talk about how, I always talk about young people saving money. There's always that sort of, the compounding interest. Well, it goes the other way too. Debt compounds as well, right? I think that's the part that we don't get, is like every year we ignore it, it gets worse. So just kind of go over like,
I mean, look, on that point, for those who are listening, right? If you take $10,000, $5,000, you take $10,000 and that you compound that, you put that in an investment and you're getting 25% year over year over year over year, that money grows rapidly, exponentially, and over like 10, 20 years, that's in the millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, right? To your point, for those who are carrying a lot of credit card debt, it works against you just as bad, right? And so those negative returns of credit card debt and interest in the 20s, I think I've seen them sometimes for some folks as high as 29%, right? That's you want that working for you, not against you. Right. That's how the wealthy get rich in this country, right? They're taking money, they're rolling it, and getting 25, 30% year over year investments, which were credit cards, they're killer for you. And one of the things that because one of the things I want to talk about is like, well, what do we do, right? So we got this problem, right, of this debt and increasing debt over time. What do we do, and how do we think? And then maybe what does it, if we don't do it, what does it mean? Like, what does it mean to those who are listening to us as well?
Well, right, and so I think that's sort of it's interesting. I always use the example. I said, when you talk about interest, is that the mob used to go to jail for the interest rates that people are being charged today for their credit cards and their cars and things like that. The mob used to go to jail for this, and now you're regularly kids are having 30% credit cards and things like that. But that's also, I mean, again, like for instance, I have a son who just turned 18. So this has been something, literally our very first meeting after he turned 18 was with my financial advisor. I said, look, as long as you live under my roof, half of your income is going to be going into investments. You're going to be, and again, someday I'm going to be long gone, and you're going to thank me, man, that old man was right. But I mean, again, it's just one of those things where for the young people, I use the example. I said, like when all these kids are graduating from high school, you go to the graduation party. I said, take them aside, say, look, take half of this graduation money, put it in a retirement account now. You'll thank me later, kind of thing. But again, unfortunately, it's not that way. It's sort of that idea, like once somebody turns 18, it's sort of, this idea, like, let's get them into credit card debt. Let's get them into student loan debt. Let's get them into a car. Like the goal seems to be get kids into debt immediately. And then to your point, all of those earning years where they have income and not a lot of expenses, they end up spending it, they end up using it to pay down credit card debt that they got into because they were ordering pizzas for everybody and not investing. And again, it's sort of like that. If that's your mindset going into adulthood, then yeah, it makes perfect sense that these people would also ignore the debt as well, because it's sort of the same idea.
Well, Chuck, and to your earlier point on like, why is there this kind of negative sentiment towards the investing and the venture capital and tech? I mean, I think you have a lot of people who went into a lot of debt getting degrees that really sadly aren't valuable. and they have not only, hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans, but they also have credit card debt, and they're, and they can't find a job. They
Right.
can't find a job in a growing environment that's getting tougher. So I think that is one of the reasons why there's a bit of negativity against the, call it the investing class or the tech class as well.
Well, and again, that's the interesting thing is it's one thing, like you said earlier, it's one thing that you grow up in a society where you grow up poor and it's hard to get out. But I mean, even you look at, there are people now that have, they're TikTok influencers and people that are making millions of dollars on, all you need is a cell phone. I know people that literally have built a YouTube, have built, again, it's not, not my cup of tea, but it's worked. The idea that literally with a cell phone, if you create good content, you can become an influencer and become wealthy, if you put effort into it. But far too many people, like you said, they kind of look at it and go, well, they're wealthy, I'm not, I can't. And that's it's so unfortunate because I meet people that have potential and they sort of just say, well, it's because, the rich people are taking all the money and I'm poor and, all these things all these reasons I can't do it. It's like, well, you've got a cell phone. That's all you need. You need a cell phone and a laptop. Save enough money. I mean, not that everybody should be a YouTuber, but even to your point about investing, like come up with an idea, instead of spending time, frankly, playing video games and doing whatever, take an hour out of your day and think about ideas. I always look at life as opportunity. I always say like, okay, totally. You look at opportunity and say, okay, as society evolves, you say, okay, what do people need? What do people want? What new problem has arrived that I can solve. I use the example of, like, for instance, I was working, I'm always working on new ideas. I came up with an idea to do sort of, like laundry delivery service before anybody else was doing it. Unfortunately, I started it literally at the beginning of COVID. I'm like, oh, the timing is perfect. People need this, but people are so afraid of COVID. Like, I don't want a stranger touching my clothes. So the business didn't work, didn't work out. I'm like, in retrospect, it would have worked. The idea was there. It was the market wasn't ready to accept the idea. So here's what I want to do.
And with AI, Chuck, with AI, look, if you have a passion, you're good at something, you can find, and there's problems that the world needs to solve. It's called an ikigai, which is your reason for being, right? What you're good at, what you can get paid for, what the world needs, and what you love, like the intersection of all that. And you couple that with AI and you try different things and you say, hey, I'm good at this. Is this a problem? How can I? And you just go back and forth and punch AI. You will find that there is a business idea that you can take on and go after and continue to use AI. Between AI and, like you mentioned, all this access to information and resources, the world is yours. Everybody who's listening, the world is yours. You can take it and there's so much opportunity. And I think it's a mindset and an attitude. I've always been, you can have a victimhood attitude, or you can have a abundance attitude and a get after it attitude. And, I choose the get after it in an abundance attitude.
No, you're right. I think that's the key. The key to all of this is sort of a global attitude adjustment. You know what I mean? But again, I think about the idea of even the younger generations. I was thinking about sort of relating the debt to climate change. It's interesting how for the younger generations, they've been sort of, they've been steeped in climate change their entire life. And it's sort of like, hey, again, even going back to like in politics, the AOCs of the world saying, oh, we've only got 12 years left, things like that. So you spend your entire life being told, well, it doesn't matter what you do, the world's coming to an end, climate change, global warming, all this stuff. And the debt's kind of the same way. It's sort of like, it's such a big issue, but the difference is we talk a lot about climate change. We don't talk a lot about the debt. It's interesting that, that we spend a lot of time with young people talking about one and not the other. When I would say, honestly, to me, I'd say the debt is the largest crisis because it affects everything else. It's, if we were to fix, even when people talk about, I meet people and they talk about, free health, universal health care, UBI, you talk about paying for college. I said, well, you know what? If we were to fix the debt, we would have $1 trillion to spend on that. I said, and that's the interesting thing. I run into these people. I say, can we agree to fix the debt first? And then we'll have working capital. We can even meet in the middle. You want to tax people more, things like that. We can agree on that. But until we agree to cut spending, until we have a plan to address that $1 trillion deficit every year, there's no money for anything else. Even when people talk about the disaster, these last couple weeks here in the region, I say, all we're doing, everything that this government does is basically adding more to the debt because there's no plan to balance the budget. So everything that we do, whether you're building a new train, whether you're, dealing with weather, whatever you're doing, you're just creating new debt. So it becomes that question of, do we need that thing that badly that it's worth getting into debt for? It's the same question you ask somebody, a young person with a credit card. Is like, hey, is that pizza really worth getting into credit card debt, paying, the delivery fees, paying the interest on, like your $20 pizza is now a $40 pizza once you pay the delivery fees and the interest and stuff like that. So, hey, let's do this real quick. We've got David Olivencia on the line. We're going to take a break. I'm going to come back. We're going to try to take some calls because I want to hear from you guys about this. We're talking about the debt. So we're going to spend the next, 15 minutes or so talking about the debt, and then we'll get into other stuff. So let's take a quick break. David, we'll be right back with you after this.
Indiana wants me.
You're a Hoosier serving in the military or living overseas? Indiana wants every eligible Hoosier to participate in our elections. Military and overseas voters can register and vote securely from anywhere in the world. Voting assistance for service members, families, and eligible Hoosiers is available now. Visit IndianaWantsYou.com or contact your county election office. And remember, Indiana wants you. Message sponsored by your Indiana Secretary of State.
Indiana wants me.
Hoosier fans, your defending national championship Indiana football team kicks off the 2026 season on Saturday, September 5th. Join head coach Kurt Signetti and the Hoosiers at Merchant Bank Field at Memorial Stadium as they take on the North Texas Mean Green, with kickoff at the Rock at 12 p.m. Tickets are sold out throughout the 2026 season, though you can visit IUHoosiers.com and purchase yours today through SeatGeek, the official fan-to-fan marketplace for IU Athletics. Cheer on your Hoosiers to victory all season long.
When your home needs help, the last thing you need is a faceless corporation or sales-driven franchise. At Myers Companies, we've been proudly local since 1951, born and raised right here in Northwest Indiana. We're family-owned and operated, built on trust, hard work, and integrity. And because we're family, we treat you like family. Your comfort and safety always come first. For HVAC, plumbing, and electrical done right, choose Myers Companies. Local, family-owned, here for your family.
Plumbers Local 210 is building the future, and we're looking for service plumbers to join our team. Our training center invests nearly $500,000 every year to make sure our members are the best in the industry. From a 5-year apprenticeship and an associate degree at Ivy Tech to ongoing certifications in safety and new technology, our plumbers are trained for excellence. Every member is drug tested and licensed for your safety and peace of mind. When you need plumbing work done, make sure you ask for the license. It's your right to ask.
St. Nicholas Byzantine Catholic Church, located at 8103 Columbia Avenue in Munster, celebrates Divine Liturgy every Sunday at 9:30 a.m. We are Eastern Rite Catholics in union with the Pope, the Bishop of Rome. All Catholics who celebrate Divine Liturgy or Mass with us fulfill their Holy Day and Sunday obligations as they do in their own churches. Join us in person this coming Sunday to find out the beauty of a Byzantine Catholic Divine Liturgy at St. Nicholas Church.
Hey, welcome back. 628 in the region. Chuck Pullen with you on a Monday. Bob is out. He'll be back next week. So what I wanted to do, we're going to spend just another segment or so. We're talking about the debt. My guest, David Olivencia, local guy. David, welcome back. Just kind of tell people a little bit about who you are, what you do once again.
Yeah, so I'm in the venture capital space. I invest in startups. I've had a long career in the technology industry, senior leadership roles at multiple Fortune 100 companies, traveled the world, mainly in the U.S., but also did a lot of work in Latin America, about 2 million airline miles, and I serve on 2 corporate boards. One's a 120-year-old family-owned business out of Mishawaka, and the second is Wintrust, Indiana. I've also authored a book called Networking Excellence, and I have a weekly podcast and newsletter where I talk about exponential trends that are out there. We live in amazing times of just a lot of exponential growth in things, whether it's AI, whether it's, call it data centers, whether it's trips to space, growth in capital spending for tech. I mean, it's an amazing time, and I believe things are happening at us very, very quickly. Our minds are used to linear change, and things are happening very, very quickly. And I don't think people totally appreciate that. So what I do is I try to take all the skills I've been blessed with and put that out on a regular basis. And then, to the point of today's conversation, I saw an exponential trend on the growth of our debt, and I wrote about it. I wrote about kind of the background, and then I wrote about kind of maybe 5 or so different ways we can attack the problem and solve the problem. I'm an engineer, Rolls Holman engineer, so I love solving problems. And so it's a little bit about me, Chuck.
Let's put a pin in that part of it, because I want to get back to that, but I did want to talk about your book for a little bit. So tell people, I was really curious. I mean, I'm kind of digging into what the book's about, and I want to grab a copy of it because I think there's a part of this when we talk about coming up with ideas. We talk about being successful in life. One of the things that doesn't get talked a lot about is the idea of having a good network, right? And one of the things is you can have the best idea in the world, but if you surround yourself with people that say, hey, that's a dumb idea, instead of working on your idea, let's go out for dinner, let's go get drinks. I mean, it's sort of the idea of you need to set yourself up with the right kind of people in your, I mean, it's sort of like the idea is like, hey, if you're an idea person, something like that, if you surround yourself again with negative people, they're just going to talk you out of things. And so tell me just a little bit about, I mean, your book and what was the inspiration for that? And what was, what did you find writing that book?
Yeah, so I was always, network has been very foundational for me through my tech career, through my investing career, and many things that I've achieved. So it's been about networking, and I've learned a lot about it along the way. Some people would say pretty good at it, whether it's through my acceleration in the tech industry, the investments that I've made, et cetera. So I decided to write a book about it, using all the talents, everything I've learned. I interviewed lots of great people at it, and then read and researched, hundreds of books around the topic and put it together, because I believe, to your point, it's one of the, you look at all the skills that are out there to be, successful in life, whether it's, getting a job, accelerating in your career, accomplishing a goal, and even around health. You think it's like loneliness is death, right? So on the flip side, right, it's your network and people you're hanging out with. Networking is one of the most important skills for career acceleration and success. And so I decided to write about it, interview some great people on it. It was an Amazon top new bestseller for a while there. And that was the inspiration on it. I wanted to help people and give back, right? I mean, that's take all the experiences that I've been blessed with, put it out there and help people give back, and how they can build a network to help them accomplish their goals, and also help other people, right? I mean, networking isn't very selfish. It's also about helping other people accomplish their goals as well.
Did you get into, I always found it curious, the idea of sort of the generational differences when it comes to networking, the idea that, a generation ago used to have sort of, after work drinks, happy hour. People used to get together outside of work and network and things like that. And it seems like generationally, like the next generation, they don't want to sort of network outside of business hours. The networking has moved online instead of in person, which again, hey, it's great to meet people online, but there's also this value of just sitting down and having a face-to-face with somebody and meeting them. And it's interesting to see sort of the generational differences and how networking and how people, how people come to understand, basically a business environment, stuff like that. Did you get into that at all?
I did. Yeah. I mean, it's, and then how do you, with social media and call it digital, I always say the great thing is you can contact people instantly around the world in a second, right? That's the great thing about social. The bad thing is, and I talk about having a strong foundation of what you believe in, your goals, who you are, because it's important about networking. But that's the bad thing also. You see a lot of people putting a lot of junk out there digitally. But with digital, it is a way you can, my network is global, right? And also local, right? I have a local network as well. But digitally, it gives me a great way to connect with folks. And just like this podcast, this podcast that we're having, or this session that we're having here, right? I mean, it could be shared globally, right? And connect with people and give them, maybe help them better understand our national debt and other topics.
Right. Well, like I said, I mean, at the end of the day, I've always looked at it as it's the biggest issue that we're not talking about, but also it's the biggest issue that affects everything. So even going back to what what I said, let's put a pin in this idea that there's so much going on. It used to be 100 years ago, your news was what's happening in your community. You had the daily newspaper. And then as we had access to the radio, then television, and now the internet, like we had this tragedy in Nepal the other day, we knew about it within minutes. So, again, here we are in Northwest Indiana. We just got through our storm, and now we're hearing about this catastrophe in Nepal, China. And it's sort of like one of those things where it's almost like we're overwhelmed with what's going on. And then when you go, hey, on top of everything else in your life, you're taking your kids to soccer, we're dealing with all the stuff in the news, you're dealing with the storm. Oh, by the way, can we talk about the debt? And they just sort of say, I don't have the capacity. Do you know what I mean? So for a lot of people, this is one of those conversations where it's like, I don't have the capacity to even talk about it or think about it because there's just so much going on in my life. And I think that's part of the problem. I want to try taking some calls. So again, you're on Zoom, so we've got a couple people on the phones. I'm going to try to do this. We'll see how well this works, because you may not be able to hear them so well. If you can't, just let me know, and I'll pass along the question. But let's take a call. So good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Chuck. How are you?
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Good, good. Hey, I just listened to how David described himself, and he's underselling it big time. In this investment community in not only just the United States, but across the world, there's a finite amount of investment capital for startups that goes to, young, talented startups, maybe some old, talented startups as well. But 97% of that funding goes to white guys, which, if white guys are going to start businesses, good. And only 3% of it goes to women and minorities, including Hispanics. And David, your guest, is actually one of the top investors for Hispanic companies in the United States and maybe across the world now. So I just wanted to point that out. But
do you want to introduce yourself so I know who you are? Have you guys met before, I assume?
I think David might remember me. David, this is Mon Hanley.
Yeah, hey, Mon, of course.
But I decided, taking some of your networking advice, I was giving too much of myself to my network, and I decided to pull back. So I left PNW in November and have started another startup. So, and completely selfish, not taking time to help other people start their businesses, and just focus on my startup. So I don't know, maybe that's a little selfish, but it's what I got to do. But my question is,
hearing your voice, Mon, and wishing your
that?
startup tons of success. Starting, I think this is your second or third startup. As you know, they're not easy. I tell people that, but they're extremely rewarding when you hit it, and they're very, 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 very difficult. Right? They're not easy to start as well. So kudos to you.
Even the ones that you think are on their feet and walking their own way, my first company is actually being recruited from Pittsburgh to Erie right now. And man, putting the whole term sheet together is very nerve wracking. But anyway, my question is, it is about the deficit and the debt, but it also has something to do with manufacturing, which, I think there's a focus on reinvesting in manufacturing in the United States right now. And as a historical example, 1943, we made more tanks in this country than the entire German nation did for the entire 6 years of World War II. That was the power of manufacturing in the United States at that time. Fast forward to 2000 and 2020, and we couldn't even find PPE for everyone. We couldn't find enough face masks. Nobody was making anything like that. So I think that's a good example of how far our manufacturing slid. And the point of all this is, I think that's where some of the debt is coming from right now. I know the military is investing in new strategies, new products, new weapons. There's a new solar system, like a film that can be put on a existing solar that will give it 60% better solar power. So there's a lot of things that are happening in that space. But I just want to hear what your take is on this reinvestment in manufacturing. And keep in mind, after, we won World War II with our manufacturing prowess, we had some of the best standard of livings for any middle-class workers in this country, in the world, in the history of the world. Like Chuck said earlier, we had better lives than kings and queens 500 years ago. And that was the middle class working on a one-income factory job. And so my hope in all of this is that we see a rebirth of a working middle class, a blue-collar middle class working in factories. Anyway, I'll leave it there.
Perfect. Thank you, Mott. So I know Dave has got to go in a minute. So why don't you, if you want to just kind of touch on that, and then we'll wrap up and I'll let you get out, and hopefully we'll have you back because you are a fascinating gentleman. So just kind of, what are your thoughts on what he had to say there?
Yeah, so a couple thoughts, and then I'll tie it with the debt. I think there has been a big push to reshore and move a lot of these manufacturing jobs back to the United States. And I think with the advancements of technology, robotics, AI, there's a lot of opportunities to, and you're seeing more of that, more of these. You're seeing chip manufacturers come back to shore. You're seeing a lot of businesses come back to shore. I think there's a whole effort that is being done around this region and the reshoring and what one region is doing around, you look at the region and what an amazing asset it is that we can take and reshore a lot of these manufacturing jobs and bring them back, right? So I think here in the region, we're sitting on an amazing asset, the electricity grid, the water grid, our location within the United States. So we have a lot of huge opportunities and huge assets here in the region. As this relates to the debt, I wrote about this in my article. I would just say I'll wrap with kind of 5 things that I think we can do to solve the problem, and then maybe how do the listeners best position themselves here. So there's like roughly five ways that we can get out of this debt. The first one is grow, right? So we can grow our economy, right? And I think the manufacturing and bringing manufacturing back is one area to do that. You listen to people like Elon Musk and others, they believe that there's a huge amount of growth that's coming in AI, artificial intelligence, humanoid robots, and then exploration of space, that our economy, which has been growing at about 2-3% a year, can grow a lot more rapidly. We'll see if that's the case, but growing is one way, and that's still a lot of what I think a lot of the politicians think, that we can grow our way out of it. It's going to be a mix of things, but growth is one. The second, and you mentioned this, Chuck, is to cut spending, right? So we can kind of, and just like any family with a credit card issue, right? You got to cut spending. So that's the second way. But as mentioned, it's not a politically.
It's not popular to go on a diet, basically.
Not popular politically.
Yeah.
But I do like, and I wrote about this in my article, I like Senator Rand Paul's proposal out of Kentucky, which is keep it flat, right? So you don't raise the budgets at all. Don't just keep them flat. We're not cutting anything. We're just keeping it flat, and then over time we grow out of it. So I think he called it
he had the penny plan. Yeah. So he famously had the penny plan. He'd been talking about this again, just like I'm here because of his father, Ron Paul. He's been talking about the penny plan for a decade. I mean, he's been attacked for it on both sides. How dare you talk about, cutting spending? So go ahead. Hit your other, I know you got to go. So I'm going to let you get through your other ideas.
So I love the penny. I love, so I'm a big fan of that, but it's been tough, right?
Yeah.
You inflate, right? The other way is inflation, right? And for those, and that's continuing to happen, right? We're still at 3%. They try to get to 2%. It was up at 9%. Inflation kills the poor and the middle class, right? Because the rich people have so in an environment of inflation, and if the debt's going to continue to grow, inflation is going to grow. So for those who are listening, you got to have assets, right? So you want to have assets, whether it's equities, own a home, not rent a home, or there's a lot of conversation on Bitcoin, and so keep studying those things in an environment of inflation, so they can inflate. And then I think the last thing I had was you raise revenue and you raise taxes, right? So which is not politically feasible or gets you elected, right?
Right.
So I think I lean more towards the growth and the penny plan to get us out of this stuff. And I see that is the way that we're going to kind of get us out of this call it this mess that we're in. That right, that hurts our country, and then our kids. Eventually, our kids and our kids' kids are going to have to pay for this stuff. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of perspective, Chuck, and then that also answers my dear friend Mont's question and kind of wraps the two together.
No, it's fantastic. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you getting up early to join me because, again, we have a lot of great resources in the region. That was one of the reasons that I do this. I'm trying to bring ideas, bring people like yourself to the region, introduce you to everybody else. Tell people where they can find you, where they can find your newsletter, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I'm mainly on LinkedIn, but I'm also on X and other platforms. David Olivencia. I have an Exponential Growth newsletter and an Exponential Growth podcast where I interview people. And then the book, Networking Excellence, can be found on Amazon, amazon.com. And yeah.
Fantastic.
Love
hey,
to be back on.
Stay in touch. Yeah, I'd love to have you back next time you got another topic. I think even networking is a great topic. I think just there's so many things, so many ideas that you hit on that we could spend we could spend hours talking about these things. So thank you so much. Appreciate you, sir. We will be back with more after this.
Need clean energy without the junk? I'm Jim Diedlow. I used to live on burgers, football, basketball, baseball. Now I'm gluten-free and more into biking, golf, and yoga. But I still need energy. That's why I love Paradise, developed by Emily D. Edwards right here in Cherville. My favorite is Paradise Packs Strawberry with gluten-free pretzels. Find it soon at Strachan Van Til or at spreadparadise.com.
Free summer music is still rocking at Fox Point. Our Wednesday night concert series brings Trippin' Billies, The 1985, Elton Jeff and the Honky Cats, Mike and Joe, and Dick Diamond and the Dusters. Friday Night Lights brings you Gold Dust Dreams and One of These Nights on August 21st, and Mexico and El Corazon on September 4th. Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois is just minutes from I-8094, and parking is free. Visit foxpoint.org for our full schedule. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
Get ready for Wings Rock fun and prizes at Wing and Roll. Friday, September 25th from 5 to 9 at Bulldog Park Pavilion in Crown Point. Sample wings from Northwest Indiana's top chefs. Vote for the People's Choice. Enjoy live music from Backstory NWI and win incredible prizes. Tickets are $75 with tables of 8 for $575. Every dollar helps support Mental Health America of Northwest Indiana. Get your tickets now at mha.rallyup.com/WR 2026.
For over 140 years, the Central Midwest Carpenters have built our communities in Northwest Indiana. Are you ready to join the effort? We have long-term work, competitive pay, and the best benefits in the industry. We pride ourselves on innovative training and commitment to worksite safety. Earn as you learn as an apprentice. A solid career built on a solid legacy. For more info, go to carpenters.com.
IBEW Local 697 electrical contractors bring the highest standard of electrical work to Lake County homes, schools, and businesses. From everyday fixes to once-in-a-lifetime builds, we don't just get the job done, we get it done right and up to the highest safety standards. When you need electrical work, hire the professionals who power Indiana. Powering Indiana, Lake County, bringing excellence to the job, creating a brighter future for our community.
648 in the region. David Olivencia was my guest. Check him out. Check out his book, Networking Excellence. I brought him on. Thanks to Brad Hemingway for introducing us. Thanks to Mott for checking in. I'm glad that you guys, that Mott was listening and was able to chime in on that as well. But again, I think that, there's two different ways to think about this. The one is on the individual level, and I use the example, like even when we had Lieutenant Governor on, I said, how is the state, how are we insulating ourselves from what's happening in Washington? Because at the end of the day, we can't do a lot about Washington, but what I can do is as David said, you can position yourself to have investments. And again, as somebody whose son just turned 18, I'm trying to position him. You will not be getting a credit card when you turn 18. You'll not be buying a car with 30% interest when you turn 18. You will be saving first. He's not going to get $100,000 in a debt going to college. My goal is to push him into a trade. Not that, again, there's nothing wrong with college, but in his case, I'm not going to send him to college for 4 years to realize it's not for me or to find his way. Like if you're not going to go to school to be a doctor or lawyer, you're going to the trades, and then you put some money away. And if you change your mind, you can do something later. Hey, before we get into it, I do need to say, there is an accident on the inbound Bishop Ford. It is now on the shoulder. It's right at about the merge. So you've got an accident on the inbound Bishop Ford, got things slowed down. So just keep an eye on that. If you're heading into the city, you're going to hit a little bit of traffic on the Bishop Ford going into the Dan Ryan. The Dan Ryan is slow on in as well. So you're going to have a little bit of a slow commute if you're heading into the city. Other than that, 8094, 65 Skyway Toll Road, everything looking good here. On the Illinois side, everything looking good as well. So, Lynette, how's the weather and the obtrusive clouds doing?
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 76 degrees with highs of 92 and lows of 72. Gonna have a brief shower this morning, otherwise hot and humid with times of clouds and sun. Later tonight we'll have a thunderstorm in spots. And then tomorrow and Tuesday we'll be having highs of 91 and lows of 73. Should be hot and humid with sunshine interrupted by clouds at times. Then Wednesday we'll be having highs of 95 and lows of 71. Should be mostly sunny, hot, and humid.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now, again, the debt is something that a lot of people just look at it like, okay, I can't do anything about this. It's bigger than me. I can't do anything about it. I'd love to have the congressman. You're always welcome to join us and have a discussion about the debt and what your party's planning to do about it. I know, Randy Niemeyer's come on. We've talked about that a little bit as well. Like his party, other than people like Rand Paul, doesn't have a plan either. Nobody wants to talk about it. Just like Social Security, they're afraid to talk about it because the guy who brings it up is the one that's going to get attacked and not reelected. So it's kind of like, no, it's, again, they know they need to go on a diet. Nobody wants to do it. They say, we'll start the diet tomorrow. We'll start next week, but we never do it. But at the end of the day, every single thing affecting your life. Why are my groceries so expensive? Why is gas so expensive? Why are my taxes going up? On the municipal level, we talk about how the municipalities have to do more with less, et cetera, et cetera. Everything goes back to the debt. If you have $100 today, thanks to inflation, it will be worth $97 next year, and it will be worth, $94 the year after that. And that's, having money in the market growing is great, but also having debt on the opposite side is horrible because it grows. That $100, that $1,000 credit card debt, you pay the minimum on it, and it's there. I mean, it's crazy because, we have these truth in lending statements. You get that statement every month that says, hey, if you pay the minimum on this credit card, it's going to take 30 years to pay off, and you're going to pay, $5,000 on your $1,000 credit card balance, but people do it anyway. There's a great guy. I started, obviously, a lot of you that are older, like Dave Ramsey. There's a new guy named Caleb Hammer. He has a lot of younger people. He's sort of like the Dave Ramsey of the Gen Z. He has people on and talk about their spending habits. And it's like one of those things where I don't know why we don't talk about it. I don't know. And I'm going to bring in Lynette. I'm going to put her on the spot and say, is this, as a younger person, is this something that did people talk to you about, like in school? They explain to you how credit cards work, I know we talk a little bit about government and stuff like that, but does anybody ever really talk about, investing and budgeting and stuff like that?
Not really. I mean, there was a class that you could have taken in high school, but it wasn't. I just didn't do that. And my parents don't really talk to me about that stuff either unless I ask, which I have. So.
Well, I always say we have these jokes about having the talk with your kids. And in my case, the talk is debt and not, the other thing. But so I guess, okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. Have you started like a retirement account or anything yet?
No.
Okay. We're going to do that. We're going to do that live on the air one day. Even if you just put $50 in there, put $50 a month in, just something, it could be $25.
I've got a savings account.
Okay. Well, that's great. How much interest does it earn? Do you know what the percentage is?
No, I don't.
It's probably, okay. So think of it this way. Let's say you have $1,000 in that savings account and you're earning, 2% interest. Okay. The inflation's 4%. So you're actually losing 2% on that money. People get like CDs and bonds and stuff like, well, I'm making 2%. Like, yes, you're losing 2% every year on that. So you need to make at least, so if you have $100, you need to make at least 4% for it to grow. Otherwise you're losing money. It's sort of like somebody that says, hey, I got a 3% raise. Cool. You made as much money this year as you did last year. And that's the thing, is that so many people don't understand. It's like, look, you need, as a young person, when you have that disposable income, you need to put money away and let it work for you. Otherwise, every year that you don't invest, every year that you're, paying interest on credit cards because you bought pizza or whatever, that's money that isn't growing for you. And again, it's like one of those things where you can see some of these charts. There's graphs where it's like, as a young person, like when you're 18, 20 years old, you can put $50 a month away. And when you retire, it's worth like $2 million. So, I mean, again, it's like compounding interest is such an amazing thing, but you have to do it early. You have to give it time. And far too many people, they spend their early years getting out of debt. Like, I got to pay my student loans. I got to pay off my credit cards and my 30% car loan. And then you finally have money and you invest, but you're 40 or 50 years old. And now you're finally saving for retirement. So do we have any calls?
We got one.
We have one call. Let's take them. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, I want to thank you for the discussion this morning. It needed to be had, particularly today. I rolled through Dutch Brothers last night about 9 o'clock and had a macchiato. I was tossing and turning all night long. I couldn't get any sleep.
Yeah.
The discussion today afforded me an extra 45 minutes of snooze time.
Oh, fantastic.
So,
right. Because the debt doesn't affect you at all, right? Debt doesn't affect us.
Well, at 6 a.m. It does, but at 6 a.m.
Well, that was his, unfortunately, that was his availability. So he said, this is my window. I said, it's kind of early to talk about the debt, but at least we're going to have it and we're going to replay it. And for those of you that kind of joined later, you're half asleep, go back on YouTube. Everything's on YouTube. Lynette spent all this time on are we ready with the app yet? You can go back on the app and watch it.
Don't try to trigger me right now.
You're triggered.
To your point regarding your son, I strongly agree with you. My oldest daughter, who is now a journeyman bricklayer, running a crew for a local company as a foreman, 27 years old. She had a athletic scholarship to go to a university in Indiana. She quickly decided that was not the route she wanted to take, switched gears, got into the trades. Last year, she bought her first house in Crown Point, and she owns 2 vehicles at this point. So for her, it's been a great decision. I strongly encourage kids to go into the trades based on our experience, and I applaud you for taking the approach you have, Chuck.
Well, I mean, again, and that's why I want to say it. There's nothing wrong with, there are people that their entire life, they said, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a vet or something. It's like, yeah, great. You have a plan, go to school. There are far too many people that I meet that say, yeah, I went to school, didn't know what I was doing, was there for 2 years. You know what I mean? So many people, it's amazing how many people get 2 or 3 years into college and then walk away. So now you've got the debt and no degree. So it's one of those things like, hey, if you don't have a plan in college, you're not going. You're not going until you have a plan. You're going to go into the trades and, you're going to go that direction. It's, that's the sort of thing is that, far too many people get into a massive amount of debt and they spend their entire life trying to bail out of it. So, kudos to your daughter.
Another guy that had a plan. I appreciate that. Another guy that had a plan was the president of Haven House, and we all know he makes a lot of money. Ciao.
Oh, geez. So you're quickly becoming like Mad Mac. Like he does. We have a great discussion. He's like, I got to drop that grenade on the way out. So, okay, well, maybe he's listening this morning and he can chime in on that. So, but again, just to kind of go back to that, and again, we'll reset for the next hour. We could talk about NIPSCO in the next hour if you guys want to talk about whatever, the storms. But I wanted to get into that just because, again, we're at $40 trillion in debt. I'm just going to go through these numbers real quick if you're just joining us. We hit $40 trillion in debt. We were in the middle of the storm, so I didn't want to talk about it then. $40 trillion in debt. Our deficit, our federal spending deficit is roughly $2 trillion, which means we're bringing in like $8 trillion, and we're bringing in $6 trillion and spending $8. So we're in a deficit. Again, it's sort of like the example of, let's say you make $60,000 a year, but you spend $80,000. That's where our federal government is at. It's been like that basically for the last, 30 years or whatever now. Both parties, both sides, every president adds more debt than the last statistically. President Trump has added something like $12 trillion to that debt, even though he said he was going to cut spending. And a lot of that comes back to, defense and things like that. Like this idea of going to war is not cheap, billions of dollars a day spent going to war. And we can also talk about, some people say, well, it's interesting to see people like the Elizabeth Warrens of the world saying, well, the rich get richer and things like that. Well, not taking somebody's money doesn't mean that they're taking money from the government. I mean, I use the example. I said, I don't care how wealthy I am. my goal, like any middle class, any poor, any wealthy, any person, is I'm going to give this current government the fewest amount of my tax dollars as possible, because I've seen where it goes. I see how they use it. If I thought they were using it more responsibly, I would say, yeah, well, no problem paying my taxes. We'll pay more taxes, but I know where the money's going. You know, not only you talk about that, we talk about, the Leering centers, we talk about the hospice, all the fraud that Nick Shirley's uncovered. I mean, we just see massive amounts of fraud. And it's always that question of, is it fraud? Is it corruption? Is it ineptitude? It's all of those things rolled in. So at this point, like, yes, I'm the libertarian that's going to shout taxation is theft, because the money that you're taking from me, you're not using it. You're not using it for me or my community. You're wasting most of it. You're wasting most of it on things that you said you wouldn't be doing, like going to war. And so I don't want to give it to you. I mean, and that's my take. And, even the idea of raising taxes and things like, you're not raising taxes. And David hit it right on the head. It's a multifaceted approach. You cut spending, you raise taxes, you grow the economy. You can't just do one. And the problem is, depending on who the politician is, they say, well, we're going to grow the economy. We're going to cut spending. We're going to grow government. No one except for like Rand Paul and his father, Ron Paul, were the ones that said, look, we need to take a multifaceted approach to this if we're going to fix it. And the problem is, again, most politicians work in a 4-year cycle. They focus on getting reelected. And again, saying that we want to cut spending, when your congressman comes home, what does he say? I'm going to bring money home to the region. Not, hey, here's how I'm going to cut spending. I'm going to bring you stuff. I'm going to bring you a new train. I'm going to bring you stuff. Not, hey, here's how I'm going to cut spending, so that your grandchildren don't curse us for putting us into this, creating this massive debt burden. So let's do this. We'll take a break at 7:01 in the region. You're listening to AM 1230, 104.7 FM in beautiful Hammond, Indiana. We'll be back with your phone calls after this.
It's the simplest expression. The smallest thing that changes everything. A smile. So easy. A smile lights it up. Apologizes. And welcomes unconditionally. Because the shortest distance between two people is a smile.
Thank you.
Strachan Van Til, where making life easier starts with a smile.
The best just got better. Tech Credit Union is proud to celebrate being recognized with Best of the Region, Best CEO, and Best Banker. To celebrate, we're offering 3 special CD offers with rates up to 4.5% APY for a limited time. Visit techcu.org or stop by your nearest Tech Credit Union branch or call 800-276-8324 to learn more. Tech Credit Union, the better option for people and communities we serve. Member NCUA. Minimum deposit required. Offer subject to change. Visit techcu.org for complete details.
From the gas in your car to the heat in your home and the roads that you drive on, our work powers daily life. We are USW Local 71, the proud men and women of the Whiting Refinery. We're not just refinery workers. We're your friends and neighbors, raising our families here, shopping in the same stores, and cheering in the same stands. USW Local 71, powering the region because we are the region.
I'm a victim of being ran over by a semi while I was flagging. The person wasn't paying attention and they hit me with their vehicle.
I seen a accident where we were the first people to walk up, and that picture will never leave my mind.
I've seen people get hit before. It's been horrible.
Construction zones on roadways and bridges are more than just cones and equipment. They're the workplace for thousands of dedicated union laborers.
Everybody has a family that they need to get back home to, so please just pay attention to us out here while we're working.
We all have family, and I know it's a pain in the ass, but we're trying to make the roads better for y'all.
We're doing this for everyone.
We're hardworking Hoosiers, just like you, and we all want to make it home safely.
People would just take a couple seconds to pay attention.
Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at. We're all in this together, and we're all just trying to be safe.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Hey, 703 in the region. Let's take a quick look at traffic and weather. Traffic on the Indiana side, 89 465, Skyway Toll Road, everything looking good. On our side, on the Illinois side, there was an earlier accident that is now on the shoulder inbound Bishop Ford. Right around the merge. So we had an earlier accident. Let's see where that was exactly. But basically right around the merge. So you've got slow traffic Bishop Ford is slow most of the way in. Dan Ryan, slow, Skyway on in. So it's going to take you a little longer this morning if you're heading into the city. Other than that, 80 east and west, 294, all that stuff looking good. So mainly your only real trouble spot at the moment, Bishop Ford into the Dan Ryan. Dan Ryan on in is just extra slow this morning. How is the weather?
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 73 degrees, highs of 92 and lows of 72. Gonna have a thunderstorm in a couple of spots this morning, otherwise hot and humid with times of clouds and sun. Later tonight, a thunderstorm in spots. Then Tuesday, we'll be having highs of 91 and lows of 73. It's gonna be hot and humid with sunshine interrupted by clouds at times. Then Wednesday, we'll be having highs of 95 and lows of 71. Should be mostly sunny, hot, and humid.
Fantastic. Thank you. So I think we can finally put sort of the storms behind us, the storm discussion. Obviously, if there's anything that we need to still mention to people, the number 219-845-1100. Looks like 99% of people have power back. Most communities are cleaning up and they've picked up all the debris and they're getting back to normal. My street is cleared and I went by we have a giant pile in St. John and they're sorting through that. But for the most part, things getting back to normal. And again, that's what we said, is that regardless of all of the static on social media, just give them time, be patient. And things will get cleaned up. Things will get put back. And, here we are. We're basically at that point. I wanted to touch on real quick. There was a sad story out of Gary over the weekend. State police released new information about a shooting that left a 67-year-old security guard dead in Gary. The shooting happened as Kenneth Williams Sr. was working security at the metro station. Well, we would just call it the South Shore Station at 4th and Broadway. State police and Gary police and Lake County Sheriff's Department officers responded to reports of an armed security officer exhibiting unusual and erratic behavior at 10:45 Friday night. At 11:20, officers exchanged gunfire with Williams. He died at the scene. A total of 9 officers discharged their weapons, and all officers are on administrative leave. Williams' family is demanding answers. I was watching the Channel 7 News was talking to the family. And again, it's a strange story, and it doesn't sound like we know everything at this point. So that's what we know right now, is that, again, he was a security guard at the South Shore Station. Officers responded that he was being erratic, and they fired weapons at him, and he died at the scene. So we don't know more than that at this point. And so, our condolences to the family, but obviously the investigation's ongoing, and we'll know more, hopefully about how this ended up, how we ended up where we were with him losing his life and what transpired there. So we had another just tragic weekend in the city. Dozens of people shot. There was a mass shooting. And I mean, again, just the typical, the stuff that we don't spend a lot of time talking about. It just sort of numbers on the screen, and it's unfortunate. But I mean, we had this. So like, for instance, there was a mass shooting in Washington Park, 1 dead, 14 injured, which was the largest mass shooting this year in Chicago. I think we're in the neighborhood of like 50 people shot over the weekend, several fatalities, 3 or 4. Those numbers are still coming in. And again, it's a warm weekend in Chicago, and that's the unfortunate reality there. So, but we're taking your calls, 219-845-1100. What do you guys want to talk about? We're here till 8:30 today. Bob is out. He'll be back next week. I don't know. Jed may stop in at some point, but if not, it's just us, this morning. And again, I just want to hear from you guys. How are things going in your world? What's on your mind? My big story for the day was talking about the debt with David, because again, to me, that's one of the biggest things that we don't talk about. So I'm glad he was able to join us. But let's take some calls. So good morning, caller. You're on the air.
You talked about the weather disaster slowing down in terms of things getting back to normal. I'm sure there's still line workers out there working to get power to people who are still waiting for it. Probably not too many this morning, but I'm sure, my guess there's some out there. They do a dangerous job, and right. I was watching History Channel a couple days ago, and they were talking about how dangerous the work of electrical line workers is. They noted that on an annual basis, 30 to 60 line workers are killed every year. How about that?
Right. Well, and again, they're coming into an area they're not familiar with. I mean, like I said, I saw guys coming in from, New Jersey, West Virginia, Florida, et cetera. So they're coming into an area they don't know. They're coming into neighborhoods they don't know. They're basically coming in blind. You've got debris on top of lines. You don't know what's active and what's not. I saw a couple stories of people like on social media talking about. There was one story that particularly struck me. She said that there's two guys working in my backyard. They were cutting trees and working through stuff, and all of a sudden they got thrown across the yard. Something snapped or whatever, and then she thought she was going to go out there, and that was going to be the end of them. They just stood up, and she said, "Okay, everybody okay?" And they said, "Yeah." And she said, "I was amazed. They got up and just went right back to work. They got thrown across the yard by whatever it was, a line snap or whatever, and they just got up and went back to work." And she said, "I was just amazed by that, this idea that, you'd be just constantly in that much danger and you just sort of shrug it off and get back to work." So yeah, again, Walt, kudos to those guys. Kudos to everybody that came in from out of town to help us. But again, just sort of your point, I just pulled up the latest numbers. 245 customers left out of the hundreds of thousands, a handful in Dyer, a handful in Gary. But for the most part, everybody's got power, and the ones that are left, a lot of resources are coming. They probably have some sort of extenuating circumstances or serious damage to the transmission lines or something. But for the most part, everybody's got power, and those that don't, hopefully they'll have power soon. So Walt, what were your thoughts? I don't know if you had a chance to listen to David. We talked a little bit about the debt. We talked about, hitting $40 trillion. It's just such a monumental number. I don't even know. And I know you've been on these airways for a long time talking about it with us. I don't even know that it can be addressed at this point. I don't even know how we would start to address it, but the reality is our politicians just don't want to. And I don't know where this ends, Walt. I don't know where we end up because of this. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's a tough issue to talk to people about. It's like a lot of subjects that people don't want to hear about. And the problem with talking about the debt, for one thing, you have half the population vote Democrat, and they always have big spending programs. So they get one big spending program under the belt, and they have another one in line because for them, spending has nothing to do with humanity, being a humanitarian or compassionate. It's all power and buying votes. That's what it's really all about. And you were talking earlier this morning about climate issues and so forth. Over the weekend, I was, especially on Sunday, I love to watch C-SPAN on Sunday and watch the presentation of books written by people from different perspectives. And this particular individual, his name is Evagela Valianatori, and he wrote the book Earth on Fire. And here's some of the things that he is proposing. One, he wants to tax billionaires to the tune of 99% to spend on dealing with the climate crisis. He wants he's opposed to solar panels in big farms because it's bad for the little creatures need places to live. He wants solar panels on everybody's roof. How about that? Would you like a solar panel on your roof?
No, I'm good. I've seen the ROI on green energy. I'm good.
He doesn't like wind power too much because it kills the birds. And but in any case, I mean, this is you go back to the 60s, and in those days, the eco-crazies were talking about the imminent arrival of a new ice age kind of thing. Well, they eventually evolved, and for the first time, I started hearing about the climate crisis when I was a graduate student at the University of Chicago, and that's when I heard for the first time that the Earth was going to heat up to the point that we have all kinds of problems, and but we have a big chunk of the population that they have. Right now, another agenda item for the Democrats is Medicare for all. I mean, I've been paying into the Medicare program since I was a teenager, and I was not eligible to take advantage of it until I was 65. The Democrats, they want everybody put on it. They want to put everybody on it, whether they paid into it or not, and that includes illegals. That's a big potential voting block for them, and it's Medicare. If things keep going as they are, in about 6 years, it's going to be bankrupt.
Right. Well,
but the Democrat answer is
right. Just spend more, but
put more people on it, including illegals.
I want to redirect you to what you mentioned about the author saying 99% tax and things like that. So our guest David, he's a venture capitalist. He invests and Mott had mentioned how he invests in minority and new business ideas by minorities, Hispanics, things like that. So basically, people that are generally missed when it comes to investing in small business and startup capital. And so one of the things I always ask people, he mentioned the tech bubble. And, I always ask people, I said, for every Jeff Bezos, and again, those of us that lived through the 2000s tech bubble, for every Jeff Bezos, there were thousands, perhaps millions of other .com startups that didn't become Jeff Bezos. There was a lot of people that invested capital. Their ideas didn't make it through the .com bubble. And so, it's one thing to go after like the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musk of the world. But what I ask people is, what would be my motivation? I mean, most people that are in that sector, they devote their entire life to their idea, then to their business. People, whether it's a restaurant or whatever, there's restaurateurs that are at the restaurant 7 days a week. Guys like Brent or Stan from Big Frank's. These guys devote their entire life to their business, and then just to say, okay, now that you're successful, we're going to take 99% away from you. I mean, what is the motivation? And David talked about, sort of the idea of growing the economy. I mean, but my point is, why would I invest an hour of my time into an idea if I know that my idea is successful? You're just going to take all of my wealth away for being successful. Why would anybody start a business at that point? Well, why would anybody invest a moment of their time into an idea if you're just going to take my wealth away if I'm successful?
Well, from the point of view of the socialist crowd, which is basically the Democrat Party, they have high and noble objectives, you see. And people who are entrepreneurs, people who want to run their own business, be self-reliant and so forth, they are being greedy and selfish. They just lack a sense of humanity, where they are, they're the fountainhead of humanity. Of course, they have a long history of supporting vicious regimes in Cuba and Nicaragua and the old Soviet Union, Red China, North Vietnam. You have to wonder how could be, when they have that kind of a record, how they could claim to be humanitarians. Well, they're not. They're looking for power, like most people movements on the left. They're just power crazed, and there's no limit to how far they want to go in terms of power. If you ask them, well, where are you going? Where are you going to be 20 years from now? Well, we haven't decided yet. There's no sense of limit, which is why they want to bring an end to the Constitution.
Well, but even the attack on capitalism, I mean, that's the thing, is that it's baffling to me that there's such an attack on capitalism, and between the Industrial Revolution and capitalism, and we've taken everybody out of poverty. Capitalism has done so many things, right, and yet we're attacking the one thing that's been successful, that's brought the entire world in. I mean, look, obviously there's pockets of the world that are still impoverished, but at the end of the day, capitalism, the Industrial Revolution, we've we have so much. You have so much at your fingertips, and yet you're still, you're attacking the one thing that's basically made everybody comfortable. You have food at your fingertips. You push a button, and 10 minutes later, a guy shows up with food. Like, can you imagine any time in history having the things that the average person, even poor people in this country, have, and yet they're still attacking capitalism? It's absolutely baffling to me, Walt. But hey, we do have to take a break and reset. So hey, appreciate your call. Appreciate you checking in. Let's take a break. The boss is here with his cream cheese is in the house. We'll be back with more after this.
I'm Pastor Eric Boone, pastor of the Tree of Life Church here in the great city of Gary, Indiana. The Notre Dame Credit Union. Go beyond and above to make sure that we are in position to make that greater impact. Listen, this credit union is one of a kind, and I'm looking forward to the future because I know that we will continue to do greater things together, and I'm forever grateful for a credit union like this.
Visit NotreDameFCU.com.
Plumbers Local 210 is building the future, and we're looking for service plumbers to join our team. Our training center invests nearly $500,000 every year to make sure our members are the best in the industry. From a 5-year apprenticeship and an associate degree at Ivy Tech to ongoing certifications in safety and new technology, our plumbers are trained for excellence. Every member is drug tested and licensed for your safety and peace of mind. When you need plumbing work done, make sure you ask for the license. It's your right to ask.
I'm a victim of being ran over by a semi while I was flagging. The person wasn't paying attention and they hit me with their vehicle.
I seen a accident where we were the first people to walk up, and that picture will never leave my mind.
I've seen people get hit before. It's been horrible.
Construction zones on roadways and bridges are more than just cones and equipment. They're the workplace for thousands of dedicated union laborers.
Everybody has a family that they need to get back home to, so please just pay attention to us out here while we're working.
We all have family, and I know it's a pain in the ass, but we're trying to make the roads better for y'all.
We're doing this for everyone.
We're hardworking Hoosiers, just like you, and we all want to make it home safely.
People would just take a couple seconds to pay attention.
Be aware of where we're at, where the cone zones are at. We're all in this together, and we're all just trying to be safe.
This is Brian Short, business manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Have you ever considered becoming an iron worker? Local 395 is now accepting applications for their apprenticeship program. Go to ironworkers395.com. Look under the training section, click on apprenticeship, and scroll down to the application. You must be 18 years old, have a high school diploma or GED, and you must be physically able to perform the work of the trade. Find out more by calling the apprenticeship school in Lake Station at 219-962-7675 or visit ironworkers395.com.
7:22 here in the region. Chuck Pullen with you. No Bob Starkey. I found this disheveled gentleman walking around the WJLB studio. So I said, why don't you come join me on the radio and, eat your breakfast live on the air, because that's what we do. He's having strawberry cream cheese on a garlic bagel. Baffling. Let's take a quick look at traffic. We had an earlier incident on the inbound Bishop Ford right at about the merge. So you've got heavy traffic, not terrible, but just heavy traffic. Bishop Ford on into the Dan Ryan had an earlier incident on the Dan Ryan as well. So you've basically just got slow moving traffic. Bishop Ford into the Dan Ryan, heavy traffic, Dan Ryan, Skyway on in. Other than that, 80, 94, 65, Skyway, Toll Road, everything looking fantastic in Indiana. On the Illinois side, 80 east and west, 294, everything else looking good. Was that not good traffic? At least acknowledge that was good traffic. How's the weather, Lynette?
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 76 degrees with highs of 92 and lows of 72. Going to have a thunderstorm in a couple spots this morning, otherwise hot and humid with times of clouds and sun. Then tomorrow and Tuesday we'll be having highs of 91 and lows of 73. Should be hot and humid with sunshine interrupted by clouds at times. Then Wednesday we'll be having highs of 95 and lows of 71. Should be mostly sunny, hot, and humid.
So why don't we do this? You take a couple bites, because we've got calls waiting. So you take a couple bites, keep it away from the microphone, and it's funny because
you're not going to talk about $40 trillion debt.
Oh, no, because everybody hates it. Nobody wants to talk about the one thing that's affecting everything, but that's fine. So let's take some calls. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Chuck, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good. 9 cops shoot a 67-year-old security guard?
Yes. Some people are reporting up to 50 plus shots fired.
That must have been one badass old man.
there is an unfortunate reality in this world. And I use the example of one time, and I think it was Times Square about 15 years ago, a group of police officers surrounded a homeless man and shot him so many times they ended up shooting each other in the process. There is a I'm going to call it a discipline / training problem in this country when it comes to police officers. You hear stories about like the guy in the drive-thru at a Wendy's, they shot him 75 times. I've never been a police officer. I've been in the military. I consider myself well-disciplined with my weapons, and I go to the range and things like that. I couldn't imagine a scenario where I have a threat and I have to shoot him 50 to 75 times. That to me is some sort of discipline problem that we have. And that's not an isolated incident. That's a pretty common story for 50 plus shots to be fired at a suspect. So again, yes, it's a very sad thing. And it's something, again, one of those things that we don't talk about, and I don't know why.
I want to know what attorney the family has retained, because this ought to be very interesting.
Well, and we talk about this.
Jed,
go ahead.
Tell Jed his fat, bald ass,
he just
no matter how he tries to get low, still goes in front of the camera every time.
So, like, for instance, there are places like New York and Chicago where they have a compensation. They have compensation funds for victims and people that were basically, dealt with by the police in a fashion that's not becoming of police officers, into the hundreds of millions of dollars. Places like Chicago and New York regularly spend hundreds of millions of dollars compensating victims for police brutality and things like that. We can go back to the John Burge situation in Chicago. I mean, again, it's just something that we don't talk about, and I don't know why. I wish we could, but again, there's really no reason to shoot a suspect 75 times. I don't get it. And it's an unfortunate thing. So anything else on your mind?
No, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I'm ready. What are we doing?
You're eating a bagel. Go ahead. Let's take another call. Good morning, caller on there.
Hey, Chuckles.
Yes, sir.
Regarding the shooting, how many times is it alleged they shot the guy?
I don't have that number. According to social media, it was.
Okay, you don't know, right?
So what we know, here's what we know: that there was 9 officers firing their weapons. 9 officers there. We don't. I mean, again, we don't know the numbers yet, but social media is reporting 45 plus.
Who's social media?
What did I say? Okay, listen. I said we don't know yet. So I'm not going to report on it until we know.
So why are we discussing it that we know 9 officers
we
shot
know
their weapons?
This is what we're
There were
hearing.
9 there. We don't know they all shot, right?
Again, you're right. Let's clarify. We don't know these numbers. There's an investigation ongoing, but this is a common thing that happens.
But you just said numbers, though, didn't you?
The social media is reporting 50 shots fired. We don't have confirmation yet, and I will revisit it when we do, but that is not unheard of for a suspect to be shot dozens of times by officers. And that is a very common thing to happen in these officer involved shootings where a suspect is shot dozens. Okay, we don't. And when we do, I'll come back on here and go, now we know 50 shots were fired. So go ahead.
Let me rewrite the headline. A man who was a security guard at the social or at the
he was at the Gary Metro
train,
Center, yes.
Got in an incident, and he put himself in a position where 9 officers had to show up to correct him or control him. There was a shooting. He's dead, and now we're going to investigate.
Right, and that's what I said. I said this is what we know.
Discharged their weapons.
Right. And that's why I started the story.
Hold on a second.
No idea how many shots
stop. All right, you're going to dissect a story that is like some minor little bit of it, okay? 9 officers discharged their weapons, okay? All right, let's say if each one of them did one.
Discharged their weapons.
It says right here in the state police said 9 officers discharged their weapons on ABC 7 Eyewitness News. So at the very minimum, there were 9 shots, okay?
Media.
Now, if each one of them did 2, then that was 18 shots, okay? So what is your point with exactly how many shots there were fired? It doesn't make any sense. Talk to us. What does that
Not to you, it doesn't make any sense.
So wait a
a
second. I don't know if they're 18 or 27 or 52 or 33. I mean, what is your point with that? All right. So let's say we don't know exactly how many until they maybe listen to a tape. They'll get exactly how many pops, right? But you got to believe that each one.
So let's not report it.
All right. It's still a story, okay?
But we're reporting.
All right, so here's the story.
Know.
All right, tell me if there's anything in here that you would like to disagree with for no reason. State police released new information about the shooting that left a 67-year-old security guard dead in Hammond. Happened down at 4th and Broadway at the Metro Center there, I guess. Indiana State Police said Gary Police and Lake County Sheriff's Departments responded to an armed security officer exhibiting unusual and erratic behavior. Officers exchanged gunfire with Williams. He died. A total of 9 officers discharged their weapons. That's all I got in a story that I read last night and that I'm reading right now. Now, according to other reports...
and then we leave it right at that.
All right,
we don't accuse
officers get rid of this guy. It means nothing to the story. So, hang up, all right?
Regardless, he did not come home to his family. We don't know the circumstances of what erratic means. Again, we don't know. We're reporting what we do know. And all I mentioned was the fact that in these situations, there historically are many occasions in which officers fire dozens of times at a suspect, sometimes armed, sometimes unarmed. We don't know the circumstances, which is why I started the entire conversation by saying the investigation is ongoing and we'll know more later and we'll report on it when we know more. Good morning, Jim. How are you this morning?
I mean, I really enjoy coming in and taking Bob Starkey's spot. Bob's on vacation or wherever. Lori Whalen's on vacation, so I actually have to come in and work right now, and so maybe I'm a little... Plus, I went out last night.
Did you? Why did you go out last night, Jim?
Why do you think? It was my 35th wedding anniversary. Today,
yeah,
we went out last night and saw Jason Bonham and the Led Zeppelin Experience at Hard Rock. It was an amazing night. We went with the Kuziaks and celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary. So I woke up a little later than I normally would. Don't touch my bagel. Are you going to get that off there? Thank you. Oh, good enough.
I can't.
35 years, pal.
So today,
married to a lawyer.
So as you recall, today is my 13th wedding anniversary.
I know that.
So that's why you brought it up. So, hey, Jim, I need help finding a present for my girlfriend.
Do you know why he's making that joke?
Go ahead. Tell them the joke, which I always love telling.
When I was 22 years old, Lynette, I was sitting in the newsroom writing a story about the Griffith Youth Dance being canceled, right? A news story, believe it or not. And Colby walks in at 1:30, and he says, John Baranowski's not going to be able to make it today. Can you host the afternoon show? And I'm like, what do you mean, host the afternoon show, like play some music or something? No, he goes, go in there, start talking, and take phone calls, and you know the issues. I didn't say it, but I go, I'm 22 years old, dude. There's usually got to be like 30 or more before they put you in there. So I'm like, of course I can. Now, I've never hosted a show, right? So I get in there, and Regina D. Biddings is my producer. It's 1984 or 85, I can't remember. And she sits down, and she's like, I go, where do I sit? She goes, you sit over there. So I sat down. It was a 2 to 5 show. The first hour of that show was so awful.
How awful was it?
That Colby, I came out at 3 o'clock on the break, and they're like, well, they're sitting in here huddled right where we're sitting right now. And they go, maybe we should just play music or maybe play a rerun or something. Well, you didn't really tape anything, so I didn't have reruns. So everything pretty much had to be live at the time. And I was sitting here, and I'm like, I'm kind of a BS artist, a little bit. So I walked right up to him. I go, no, I got this. I can do this thing these last 2 hours. So I go and I call my dad real quick, and I go, hey, Dad, call the show real quick, right? And he I go to the phone call when I'm on. Hey, everybody, blah, blah, blah. I even did traffic well then.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, he was waiting like 2 minutes, and all I could hear him when he's hanging up is, I already waited. I'm hanging up. That was actually on the air. Like, oh, well, we lost that caller. And then Regina is sitting there. I start talking to her, and I go, hey, it's my girlfriend's birthday tomorrow. What should I get her? And then for the next 2 hours, I had people calling in, hey, get her perfume. Why don't you take her to a nice dinner? For women like flowers. It was suggestion after suggestion. So I got my start in radio by asking what I should get my girlfriend, who is not my wife now, for her birthday. And that's why he makes fun of that. And it is what it is, man, live radio. That was my start. What should I get my girlfriend for her birthday? What should I get my wife for her anniversary? I already did that. So
and now here we are. Here we are, Jim.
I want to give you kudos. On Friday night, we ran football games on Heartland Sports Network from all over the region.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be like one football game on a Friday night in 2020, and then it got to be 2 on 2022, and then by 2024, we might have 3 games on. I think we had 7 or 8, maybe more, games on Friday night, because we're now the platform where people come to and want to stream their games, right? So, I don't know, we had a Valpo game, we had a Crown Point game, we had Hanover Central's big win. Griffith-Munster was a great football game. It was tied 22 at halftime. There was some really good football game on Friday night, and they were all on the Heartland Sports Network platform, which I must give, say 2 things about. First of all, Chuck Pullen was kind of his idea. His idea was to come to streaming video. I'm like, I don't want to do this. Kind of like a Lynette right now. Oh, I want to build an app. I want this. I want that. And I'm like, Chuck, I don't want to do this. Here I am, night after night. We're putting servers in the back there, and he's telling me all of his tinfoil conspiracies. But I realized that it kind of culminated on Friday night, Chuck, with even Hobart High School broadcasting streams through us, Mid-America Broadcasting. And it's all based on that original germination of an idea by you. Now, you didn't say sports. That was more Sam.
Well, I was going to
Michael.
say, credit Sam Michael, who said it was actually 12 games. I forget I don't know how many games you said.
It was 12 games on Friday night?
Is that what he said? There's 12 games, yeah.
I mean, I went over to the Munster game, and I'm sitting there in the first quarter, and I'm like, I just want to go game to game to game to game. And then we had a show in here, too, a studio show with Steve Hanlon of the Times. But I went home, and Sam took all those previews off every time you switched.
Mm-hmm.
So now you can go from game to game. So I'm going, hey, Pike and Crown Point are playing. And then the Munster-Griffith game was good. I just, even like people are saying, where are you going, Jed? This game's a good game. I go, man, I just got to tell you, I want to go. I actually got 2 TVs in my room now. So I'm going back and forth watching 2 games. It was amazing. And all that started with you and then Sam Michael. And I was very proud on Friday night.
Well, I'm glad it works. I'm glad that we were able to do something that benefits that's, even I know Lynette called me. I believes was in here doing his show. I was talking to David, who lives in Munster, David Olivencia, who is from Munster, a great guy. I said, as soon as I started talking to him, I said, Jim's going to call you and try to get you to do a podcast as well. But again, what did I say when I first met you? There's so many great stories and so many great ideas in the region that, again, back then we didn't have YouTube and stuff like that. So it's like, we need to give those stories and those ideas a home. And that's what we've done. And I'm proud to be a part of it. So,
but there's 2 developments here. The other one is that what you want in the stories and aggregating all of them, all the news talk podcasts, they've gone toward the podcast, right? Whereas sports has gone towards the live game.
Right.
That's really all that matters.
Because that's the one thing that I've always said, that's the one thing that a YouTuber can't do, that to have the resources even like the idea of, the Super Bowl or something like that. No YouTuber is ever going to have the resources to bring hundreds of cameras and thousands of people together to cover, the Super Bowl. So that's that one avenue that broadcasters still have a leg up. You can have a Joe Rogan sitting there in a studio like this getting millions of views, but you can't do live sports quite yet.
According to a good source, he's given me good stuff in the past. So, this is just this is unconfirmed. But a fire truck got on the expressway eastbound from the boulevard.
Okay, so eastbound on the boulevard.
State police are en route also.
Okay, so we're going to report that there's an accident eastbound Borman.
So ambulance and state police and a fire truck on the eastbound Borman just happened.
Okay, so
just happened. It's not even.
Yeah, we don't see it yet. But if you guys are out on the Borman and you see an accident or anything going on, let us know. 219-845-1100. So we can talk about us for like one more minute, and then we're going to take a break, and we're going to take phone calls, and everybody's going to tune out. It's like, we don't want to hear the server story again.
No, but
okay, talk about us for a minute, and we'll take a break.
So, I just wanted to give you thanks, man.
I appreciate that.
The second part is it's all because a lot of the businesses have stepped up.
Right.
We gave high schools, the whole mission is to get money back to the high schools and create an insular network where we're not giving all the content away to some national streaming service and not getting any money. If you connect local businesses with those broadcasts, they love it.
Right.
So I've become Bob Grand, Republican guy. He said, Jed, you got to become the guy where people go across the street because they know you're going to ask them for money. And I ask everybody, I go, why are you not on high school football? Why are you not on high school sports? Last night I saw Mike Gozdecki, Elmwood Cemetery over here. I go, hey, man, why aren't you supporting that? And I've become that guy where you walk across the street because I'm sticky. I want to make sure that you're supporting it. But I say that to all of you businesses out there, this is a good thing, and it's really good value. And so I've got to get out there and tell everybody the same story. But if you want to be part of it, all you got to do is Jed at WJOB1230.com. What does it say about this wreck?
So what we're seeing is we're starting to see some delays. It looks like it is eastbound at Indianapolis Boulevard. We've got traffic slowing down up to about Calumet at this point. So it looks like we do have an accident eastbound Borman in the Indianapolis Boulevard area. Let us know if you're out there and if you see that. So why don't we...
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
For when we come back, I guess. Yeah.
Tease the break.
All right. I want to know, when we had the 2008 flood, it was a very small geography.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, I don't know, maybe 3,000 homes or something, if at the most, that flooded out. And now it's the entire Calumet region. 374,000 customers were out at one point. What have we learned in the last 2.5 weeks about storm recovery and how to bounce back from a chaotic emergency?
We'll talk about that and more here on WJLB. Better Call Pullen, 845-1100, WJLB, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM in beautiful Hammond, Indiana. We'll be back with more after this.
Tech Credit Union supports the essential role of union labor in building strong communities. That's why we offer hassle-free banking, financial empowerment, and a commitment to your success. Save for the future, handle life's challenges, and trust a partner that stands by hardworking union members. Tech Credit Union, the better option for you and your money. Visit techcu.org or call 800-276-8324. Tech Credit Union, supporting union families every step of the way.
I'm a victim of being ran over by a semi while I was flagging. The person wasn't paying attention and they hit me with their vehicle.
I seen a accident where we were the first people to walk up, and that picture will never leave my mind.
I've seen people get hit before. It's been horrible.
Construction zones on roadways and bridges are more than just cones and equipment. They're the workplace for thousands of dedicated union laborers.
Everybody has a family that they need to get back home to, so please just pay attention to us out here while we're working.
We all have family, and I know it's a pain in the ass, but we're trying to make the roads better for y'all.
We're doing this for everyone.
We're hardworking Hoosiers, just like you. and we all want to make it home safely.
People would just take a couple seconds to pay attention.
Be aware of where we're at, where the cone zones are at. We're all in this together, and we're all just trying to be safe.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Do you like to work with your hands, creating something from nothing? Then think about Laborers Local 41. You'll get 432 hours of apprenticeship training, all while earning a wage with benefits and incurring no student debt. You'll travel to different job sites, learn tons of skills, and in a lot of cases, be the first one on and last one off a job site. It all starts at laborers41.com.
Enjoy the taste of summer at the Farmers Market at Fox Point. Every Tuesday from 9 to 1, shop locally grown fresh produce, delicious baked goods, artisanal treats, and local culinary creations. Just minutes from I-8094, the Farmers Market at Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois is a perfect spot to hear acoustic musicians, stretch with morning yoga, and enjoy community fun throughout the season. To see all vendors and entertainment, visit foxpoint.org. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
7:45 in the region, so we've got an update on the Borman. So there is an accident eastbound 8094 at about Kennedy. So we've got an accident, as a couple people has mentioned. First responders are just getting there now, so we'll get the severity of that, but expect lane closures, etc. So let us know if you're out that way what you're seeing, but expect eastbound 8094, the backup will be growing as they address this incident. Also, we've had problems on the Bishop Ford Dan Ryan all morning, so we've got to slow down Bishop Ford on in to the Dan Ryan. South end of the Dan Ryan's heavy. Inbound Dan Ryan, Skyway on in is heavy, so just a heavy commute if you're going into the city. Other than those two, 80 east and west in Illinois, 294, everything else looking pretty good, other than those two things we mentioned. Lynette, how's the weather? No.
I forgot about that.
That's okay. That's okay.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 76 degrees with highs of 92 and lows of 72. We're going to have a thunderstorm in a couple of spots this morning, otherwise hot and humid with times of clouds and sun. Then tomorrow and Tuesday we'll be having highs of 91 and lows of 73. It's going to be hot and humid with sunshine interrupted by clouds at times. Then Wednesday we'll be having highs of 95 and lows of 71. It should be mostly sunny, hot, and humid.
Jim Deedlow, my guest this morning on Better Call Pullen. Can I take some phone calls? Do we have some? Okay, let's take some calls. We'll jump back and forth. You can talk about how great I am. We'll take some calls, and I'll talk about how great you are.
I tried to give him a compliment.
No,
Did you see how uncomfortable he was? I mean, literally, he's sweating. It was Richard Nixon on the Nixon
yes,
debate.
This is why I can't run
Kennedy.
for president. I'm not handsome.
Exactly.
That's why I have a face for radio. So go ahead. Let's take some calls. Good morning, caller on the air.
Can I get it a word in edgewise here for crying out loud?
Maybe. Let's see. Give it a shot. Let's see.
Lunch Menu Dave here, checking in from Evanston, formerly of Griffith, planning on heading my way down there this week for Rock and Rail. And also giving the scoreboard show on Friday what might be their first viral moment, if you will. I kind of called in the middle of the scoreboard show and gave them an update of what I was watching via the Griffith Munster game. So how about that for something, huh?
So let's mention that real quick. Rock and Rail starts Thursday at 5 p.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. All kinds of stuff happening. All kinds of tribute bands. Just a great event. Don't miss it. What a great lineup. Great time. Great events happening in Griffith. So how are you, sir? How are things in your world?
Yeah. Opening act, bonfire at 5 o'clock. Lord willing, I'm hoping to make it down there for that because one of my old friends from Griffith High School who graduated a couple of years ago is going to be manning the drum set for bonfire. One, Mr. Chris Karp, who is also, I want to say, involved with Hessville Star. If my impression is right, he should also be at that fest playing again on Sunday night.
Great variety of music, just kind of looking at, like even on Thursday, you've got AC/DC, Mellencamp, Toby Keith, all kinds of other, just throughout the weekend, just great tribute acts. great weekend. Like I said, great weekend of different things going on.
All right, David. Thank you, buddy. I'll see you out there.
Happy anniversary, Jimmy.
Hey, man. Thanks a lot. 35 years. Could you believe it? Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it, Dave, coming from you. See? People do care.
I didn't say they don't care. I said they don't want to hear about our server story again. Do we have any other callers? Go ahead. So let's take some calls. Good morning. You bring the timer.
That's bad radio. You should never ask, do we have callers?
Okay, well, if we have callers, let's take them. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning. How are you all doing this morning?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. Well, let's say this gentleman, this security guy at the Benjamin Train Station here in Jackson.
Hey, man. Hey, Matlock. You got to turn the water off, and you got to speak directly into the phone because we're having trouble hearing you. All right, go ahead now.
I am speaking directly into the phone.
Okay, now you sound better.
You sound better.
And I don't have any water on. Okay.
All
right. Let's say this gentleman, I guess, has a security guard there, and it bothers me something that someone was shot 50 times. Does it take that many times to kill a person? I know police I got a lot of friends of policemen. They're trained shoot to kill. If you pull that gun, you shoot to kill. Now, but again, in America, there's so many people there's a very thin line between sanity and insanity. Okay, you know, there's a lot of people right now so worked up what's going on. Why would a security guard be there acting all funny? Somebody must have noticed this guy before. Why did he get to this point, Jed? I mean,
right. There's more to the story you're right. There's more to the story that we don't know yet.
Yeah.
So basically, what we did is we reported on what we know at this point.
Yeah, and I just say that when people do stuff like this guy was United Healthcare, this guy killed. Why would a guy do that if he wasn't unbalanced? Smart people, and I think in America. The thing in terms of people, mental illness is a big thing in America, and I've been talked about this for years and years. That what are we going to do to deal with this mental health situation? Because these are the kind of people who go out and do some stupid stuff.
Well, no, we completely agree.
So we don't know.
Right. We absolutely agree that the mental health crisis is the biggest unaddressed issue in this country right now, and it leads to all sorts of other things. And you're right. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
No disagreement.
Absolutely. And people are shooting at presidents and stuff like that. Why would you be doing some stuff like that? It's not a win situation other than the fact that you merely, it's like, I'm going to take them out. I'm going to do what I got to do, and they can take me out because I don't want to live anymore anyway. So they have a mental problem. So like I say, let's see what folds out. But again, let me just conclude by saying this. I really enjoyed this past 2 weeks out of the love in my community, coming together, the churches. I mean, it was like I had never seen this but we never had anything like this either in terms of what people were out. You know, the most of my understanding, the electricity has been restored to probably 99% of the people, and that's a good thing. Now what comes to cleanup. And so right now, I noticed, Jed, I noticed yesterday, there were some trucks, there was like a double trailer trucks, and it was tall, and they had this thing, and they were going around picking up this stuff. I said, man, so because my thinking is, it'll be, what I'm looking at here in Gary, it'll probably be to February next year before they could pick up this stuff. So apparently they had somebody coming in from across America. You may have seen them, Jed.
Yeah, so these are the trucks that have, there's a crane in the middle that basically picks up the trees, throws them in there.
That's right.
Yeah, so,
that's right.
Yeah.
I say, man. So what happened, they have had somebody else, I guess, to cut it up and just pile it there. And now they're picking up, going down. I say, and I don't know where they come from. I never seen them before, but apparently when they had them to come in here, they know where to get them from, the government. So I appreciate all the help and support. And let's stop fighting. Let's come together as and enjoy whatever. Okay.
No,
with
you're
that,
right,
have a
Ron.
good
And I mean, again, same idea. You know, I was in Gary last weekend, and people just kept trying to push this narrative. I go, no, it's not happening. I said, I'm here. Everybody's coming together. I even saw, you know, Democrats, Republicans shaking hands, going, what do we need to do? What needs to happen? I said, I know this isn't going to last forever, but as long as it lasts, let's get it done. And it's been really nice. It was really nice to see that a lot of people just put everything aside and we got it done.
Hey, Ron, let me ask this question. What did we do right during this storm?
I think he's gone.
All right, he's
okay.
gone.
Let's take the next caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Hey, Jimmy, I just want to say that Friday night I was at Bridges. I didn't know that Griffith was playing Munster. We're sitting right in front of the TV, and what pops on at 7 o'clock other than the Munster-Griffith game, and everybody was enjoying it. So I was sitting in Griffith. Where was it? I think it was at Munster, right? The game?
It was at Munster, yeah.
So, I mean, I can understand why people can go out on a Friday night. And by the way, Friday night when they have the baby back ribs, it's a hit at Bridges. They continue to do well over there. But it was just interesting because I'm like, this is why everyone would sit here, because it might be warm out or mosquitoes or whatever, and you're sitting in having a nice meal watching Munster Griffith. So I can understand why that's taking off the way that it is. But just answering your question, are we going to learn anything from this? I think it's too early to tell, but as a leader in the community, as you are, you should be pushing for us to learn something from this, because we're going to have another emergency. That's just the nature of the beast. We fixed the river. Now we need to fix our emergency response. And I think there's a lot of things we can learn. And it's a little too raw yet because there's still cleanup. And there's a lot of things that have to get done. We've got to get people back in their homes because there's going to be a lot of rebuilding. But we can't let this episode go without trying to learn something from it, if you ask me.
So, you know, Dave, that's one of the things the three of us were on the air. You guys were on the air with limited. The funny thing was you guys had power, but didn't have a lot of information. I was sitting in St. John. I had information and no power. So between the three of us and a lot of other people, we were able to get that information out within minutes. You know, you came in and we were able to talk that afternoon and get a lot of good information out. But, you know, again, that was the frustrating thing for the next 2 weeks was, you know, we had to talk to individuals. Bob Starkey came in and talked about what's going on in Dyer. You have to reach out to Rick Rifa and Griffith. You have to talk to Munster. There was no central, I'm just going to call it a fusion center.
We need a
Right.
central command, and the guys that were doing NISA, and it's a little bit on hiatus, had the right idea. They just didn't have the funding. You need a central location, and then you have to make sure that central location has power, so you'd have to use generators, obviously, whatever we pick. I know they were going to try to pick the hangars out there. Whatever the emergency people pick, that needs to be central command. And then all the resources could then be communicated through there, and they could be marshaled there. We don't have that. And when you don't have that, you're going to have 17 different communities. And in many cases, you can talk to Bob about this, within each community, which in those 17 communities, you had a bunch of different people working in the neighborhood, so no one really knew what was going on.
Right. Bob was talking about literally he had to ask his crews. He said, if you're out and about cleaning and you see NIPSCO, let us know where they are because they're not telling us where they are. So again, there was all these people that were working, just not in any sort of coordinated fashion.
And they would know if they were all at Central Command because you'd have someone from NIPSCO at Central Command telling the group, here's where our people are at. And then you could coordinate, well, if your people are going to be over there, maybe we need to have our public works over there so that things can work together. We don't have a system for that.
Right.
So it's not going to organically happen itself. And in fact, I would argue that we have the exact opposite. Because we love our own autonomy, we don't want help from others. And then when you have a big event like this, everyone's looking, where's everybody at? Well, there's no lines of communication. There's no modus operandi, so how do you think it's just going to happen? And the same thing is going to happen again unless we do something. I mean, unless you change how you operate, the same set of circumstances, whether it be a tornado or flood, something that we all have to work together, I think we should start working on that. And as I said earlier, the reason that it's hard to do is who are you going to put in charge of that? The flood was simple. There was already a group that was put together, and then Mitch Daniels came in and said, no. You bozos that have been doing this for 30 years, you did 1 mile. You bring in guys like Bill Baker and his group, and they've completely turned it around. Built it. Now for $40 a year, you keep water where it's supposed to be. I think we're going to need something along the lines of that, where there's a certain amount of money, whether it be the communities give or a tax that it goes into a certain thing, and automatically that group goes into effect when it's emergency. And that's what needs to happen to prevent this from going on again. My suggestion or my prediction is it won't. We'll be having this conversation just like we did, in 2008 at the flood, and you're going to look back and it's going to be the 26 tornado, or really Category 2 hurricane is what it was. So what do you suggest? Or it's just conversation on the radio unless someone steps up and does something.
Hey, Coos, thanks. We're going to take that. I think Chuck wants to take a break, but I do want to thank you and Lisa for, obviously we pal around for many years, but Alexis and I celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary where I couldn't think of two people funner to do it with than you and Lisa, and I very much appreciate it. We saw a great show at Hard Rock. The whole night was just perfect, so thank you. All right, man. Hey,
so
we have to talk about
we
this.
Will. So let's do this.
Let's take his question.
Okay. Well, it is 8 o'clock in the region. You're listening to AM 1230, 104.7 FM in beautiful Hammond.
His question is, maybe we need like a communications commission like we have the little Cal, right? And I agree. That would be a great idea. But here's the deal. I was, for a decade, the communications coordinator for NISA.
Mm-hmm.
If they were going to have a nuclear bomb, we went through one exercise where if a nuclear bomb goes off in downtown Chicago, Gary Airport becomes a command center, and Jed, you become the person who relays the information that we have, okay? And I did it in a couple of small ways, right? But it soon became very evident that Steve Shekel, who was kind of the Munster police chief, who was kind of behind it, and Lori Felt, and all these other people that were volunteering their time and holding fundraisers so that they could support the mission, it just wasn't going to be enough. It needed to have some sort of a government funding source to keep it going, because you got to have professionals. You have to have a place where it should be. I never thought about it. But I'm cleaning up my office.
I was just thinking the same thing.
I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I have literally got 3,600 square feet that we're working on. And I was here last night every day. We're putting a podcast studio in, but certainly there'd be plenty of room. But we would have to get that serious about how do we coordinate an emergency. It's especially challenging for us because there aren't that many places in America where you have 800,000 people across 3 counties that are there, and there's no city. Nobody controls it.
Right.
There's no communication even between a lot of people. I mean, when was the last time you talked to somebody in the Port? When was the last time somebody in Gary talked to somebody in Lake of the Four Seasons, right? I mean, in other areas, it would all be a city of like 300,000, and then there'd be 500,000 living around it, or 400. But not here. I think the biggest city is Hammond now at like 70-some thousand, and then Gary's at 70-some thousand. Valpo's in the 30s, Munster's in the 20s. I mean, Cherville and Maryville may be I mean, the structure of it does not lead to how we would communicate information. Now, there's 2 things here. The other one, I'll hit after the break you want to take.
Yes, thank you. That was going to say the third thing is we need to take a break. So we'll do that. We'll talk about all of that and more. We'll be back with more here on WJB.
I'm a victim of being ran over by a semi while I was flagging. The person wasn't paying attention, and they hit me with their vehicle.
I seen a accident where we were the first people to walk up, and that picture will never leave my mind.
I've seen people get hit before. It's been horrible.
Construction zones on roadways and bridges are more than just cones and equipment. They're the workplace for thousands of dedicated union laborers.
Everybody has a family that they need to get back home to, so please just pay attention to us out here while we're working.
We all have family, and I know it's a pain in the ass, but we're trying to make the roads better for y'all.
We're doing this for everyone.
We're hardworking Hoosiers, just like you. And we all want to make it home safely.
People would just take a couple seconds to pay attention.
Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at. We're all in this together, and we're all just trying to be safe.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Life's biggest challenges don't come with a warning. When legal issues arise, whether it's a car accident, personal injury, criminal charge, or representing you before municipal boards, you need a trusted advocate on your side. At Westland & Bennett, we listen first because your story matters. We provide strategic, personalized legal solutions to protect your rights, your freedom, and your future. Peace of mind starts with a conversation. Call 219-440-7550 today for a free consultation.
Planting a tree, installing a fence, whether your project is big or small, NIPSCO reminds you to know what's below and contact 811 at least 2 full business days before doing any digging so that utility companies can mark the location of their underground lines. Contacting 811 is free and it's the law. Avoid possible penalties, costly repairs, or injuries. DIY or a pro, safety is in your hands. Every dig, every time.
Fishing for a seafood meal without the stress or mess of cooking? Leave the work to the Strachan Van Til Seafood Department. For just $1 extra per pound, we'll fry, grill, or steam your fish with your choice of 3 kinds of breading. Try our fish and seafood dinners. Each includes a ½ pound each of seafood and fries, and a ¼ pound of coleslaw. Want the freshest catch in town? Reel in the fish and seafood selections from your local Strachan Van Til.
Hey, it's 8:04 in the region. Chuck Pullen here with you on a Monday. No Bob Starkey. So the boss himself sitting in with us. We're taking your phone calls, but let's hit traffic and weather first. In traffic, we had an earlier accident eastbound Borman at about Kennedy. So we've got traffic backed up. Basically, I'm going to say Kennedy backed up to about the Calumet, the state line at this point. So there's an accident. If you're out there, let us know how serious it is. Lanes are closed, etc. All I can tell you, there's an accident. And traffic slow. We've had problems on the Bishop Ford Dan Ryan all morning. Bishop Ford on into the Dan Ryan's a little slow. Dan Ryan on in is just getting heavier and heavier. So if you're on the way in, just sit in traffic and enjoy the show. We'll be with you on your way in. On the rest of the Illinois roadways, 80 east and west, 294. 294 getting a little heavy in the Hinsdale area, that construction area. Other than that, things looking good on the Illinois side. Lynette, how's the weather?
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 75 degrees with highs of 92 and lows of 72. We're going to have a thunderstorm in a couple of spots this morning, otherwise hot and humid with times of clouds and sun, Then tomorrow and Tuesday we'll be having highs of 91 and lows of 73. Should be hot and humid with sunshine interrupted by clouds at times. Then Wednesday we'll be having highs of 95 and lows of 71. Should be mostly sunny, hot, and humid.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So Jim wants to talk about FEMA and wants to talk about the region's reaction to crises and how we should address it. Again, all important things. I said, once we're through, once we get everybody's power back, once we clean up, that should be the discussion moving forward, is the communication. Because again, I think we're, like Rob Kendall kept saying, man, how did you guys do it? I said, Rob, we did it because that's what we do, right? I mean, again, there's people out there that are fixing lines, picking up trees. We go on the radio. You and I had the exact response, right? As soon as the storm came through, we all were on the same page. We said, this is bad. We need to get on the radio and communicate what's going on. And that's just our nature, right? So we, again, small part in the bigger puzzle, but we need information to be able to relay. And that was frustrating for us through this entire process, is nobody really knew what was going on. And that's kind of the discussion coming out of this, is how are we going to communicate?
That is the number one thing I think that we learned, is that how are you going to communicate? You're right. Right as it happened, by the time I got here, 20 minutes later, Dave Kuziak was already here. We were on the air within 25 minutes, right? The problem was we had no phones, we had no internet, and the cell phones had all basically gone down. The only thing we could do is maybe take a cell phone call on our phones, and we were able to bring you on, Sam Michael, and some others. And then all the internet went out, and it was tough, and we just had to talk. And maybe once in a while get a 30-minute delayed text that would come through, right?
Yeah.
Because of the
you have to go outside to get your text, and it was crazy.
So
yeah.
a couple things happened. Yes, it was weird that WJOB was still on the air with power, because they haven't bought a generator, and if somebody wants to buy that whole building generator, and you'd be we would be in love with you forever, but we need to get that, and we need to be on the air, and I see that. I will tell you a related story, and Lynette's kind of at the core of this. Evidently, Google sponsors this thing called Independent News Network, INN, and they go in and they say, hey, you know what, you sponsor, did coverage during a calamity, whether it's a storm or a flood or a tornado, or usually it's a weather-related thing or a bridge collapses or something like that. Well, the local media has to cover it, and then you got to spend a bunch of money. So Google sets this thing up, well, we'll give you $10,000, right? So I go, Legacy Foundation's saying, you guys got to submit. You got to submit. So I go, I take hours and I fill out the application, and then I call the woman and I'm like, all right, this is what we do. And she's like, all right, I'll look at your application. And then she emails back and says, well, where's the Facebook post of all your coverage? The only thing up there was yours. And I go, well, we don't really do that. We just do it live on radio. Yeah, but where's the posts? And I'm like, well, we couldn't post.
We had no data to post.
There wasn't anything. We were on the radio covering it. And I go, listen, we recorded a couple of the interviews, like Governor Braun, I think we recorded on a cell phone, and Mayor Eddie Melton, McDermott was in here, Congressman Van, Adrian Santos. I mean, we did. And so Lynette has to take a couple hours out of her day, and we're busy as all get out. I go, hey, the deadline's here in a couple days. And so she sends that in, and they go,
that was Adriana.
That was Adriana.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, then the woman calls me back. Well, where's your posts? I go, listen, we're on the radio.
We want money for data so that we can post in the future. Well, where's your post? We didn't have data.
Yeah. So she's like, well, I don't get. What do you mean you were just on radio?
What is radio? I don't understand.
Go, well, we were live on the radio, and we guided people home, and we had the governor. We had all the major politicians.
She's from Google. Do you tell her we were on YouTube? We're on YouTube all the time. One of your
we couldn't stream. We couldn't stream.
I mean, we're there now.
So we didn't have any. We didn't, and we just said, all right, well, here's a few of the interviews that we happened to record, and we were on the air and I go call Natalie Ammons at WLTH. They used the airwaves for 3 hours because they didn't have a radio. So I look at it. They're supposed to give you the money right away. I mean, we didn't get it, obviously, because they didn't understand that radio could be the central force in a calamity or storm. Well, we've never had that, so no, we're not going to give you any money. I'm like, what are you talking about?
But I mean, even after the storm, I sat in my car for 2 hours listening to you guys, getting news, because again, nothing else worked, right? You can, and again, people like Lynette have never had a battery-powered transistor radio. You can have crank-powered radios. Radio is the one thing, if we have power, you can get that out, whether you're sitting in your car, whether you have a battery-powered radio, whatever. And again, people that are not that old don't even understand what you're saying. You're talking a different language when you say, hey, I'm on the radio, which most people still have in their cars and et cetera. But
so I was like, all right, so Google will give you $10,000 unless you're on radio. And I'm like, well, you need to put that in there, because I just spent 10 hours and Adriana spent hours during a storm to fill out your thing. And now you're like, well, it's just radio. And I go, what? It's just radio. Are you kidding me?
Right.
We quarterbacked the whole thing. So back to your question about what needs to happen going forward. I think Kuziak had a great idea. It needs to have a little Calumet River Basin Development Commission type response to show, because why was Bob Starkey going on national news griping about the power company? Why are we reading not about recovery efforts and all the great things that people are doing, and we all agree with that, but we're reading in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal that we have a racist area, and people aren't getting to Gary, and they're shooting at the linesmen.
Right.
And if you break all these down, and there were other communities that were shouting just as loudly, like, what's going on? Where's our response? Where's the federal government? Where's this? To me, we're not a racist area. To me, we're not forgetting about Dyer tucked over by the Illinois border. What we're doing is we're not communicating anything, And so people get frustration. Remember during the flood when Bernie Zeman came in here and just started yelling at me because we wouldn't take his phone call. He's been calling in for a day. He couldn't get in. And then he just came over and he was all frustrated. And we were getting ready to have a fight and kind of started it. And then Kuziak and Reardon stepped in. And it was just kind of a historical moment.
Right.
All of that was based on a lack of communication. We have the exact same town and city officials all upset during a major calamity, and then it goes away, and then no one's going to set anything up so that all of these different communities can talk to each other. Then I'm on the air, and we're on the air, all of us, everybody in this room, and another 20 people just carried radio through, and then there's no designation by Google like that. Well, it doesn't matter. It's not a Facebook post.
Right.
So the whole thing's messed up. I've told you before, it's not going to be Steve Shekel. He's retiring. It's not going to be me. I've got a sports network that I run. Somebody's got to emerge and create this.
Why are you looking at me? Don't look at me. I got enough going on.
Because your forehead's shining off that light onto my eyes, and it hurts.
Yikes.
But anyways.
Do we have calls? 2 calls? Let's take a call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Oh, good morning. I want to congratulate you, Jed, on 31 years of marriage. I have 41. I happen to have married a SAQ. An SAQ is a South America Queen. I met in Rio de Janeiro Airport years and years ago. Seems like yesterday. On an SAQ, you never, ever argue because it'll hurt you. The other thing is about your bagel sandwich. Personally, I like it toasted with lettuce, either honey, ham, or liver sausage, and a cup of coffee. Thirdly, commented on Walt. Walt said it's about power. No, Walt, it's not about power. People graduate from college or high school, and they expect to be another Elon Musk and make $1 trillion now, today. Like you said, everything is done in minutes or quick.
Right.
You can't make money quick. You have to work at it. Now, that's the problem. The people we've got now, they don't want to buy a house because they don't want to take care of it. So they want to live up the good life. But they don't understand, which these socialists are shoving down their throat, you don't have to work. The government will take care of you. That's what people want. That's why the government's getting bigger and bigger. People don't want to do it. They want the government to do it.
All right, I'm going to stop you. Let me stop you on that one.
I am the spook, by the way. I am the spook.
I know who you are, and I'm so glad to hear you.
Yeah,
man.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. Hey, thank you, and it's been 35 years. Go ahead. I want to address one thing that you said, and that is, first of all, it's 35 years. Today's my anniversary. I had an LAQ. I have a Latin American queen, so I get it, and I very rarely argue with her because she's a lawyer, and she's a Latin. And I think, and Chuck's like, oh, isn't it great when you win an argument? I'm like, I have never won an argument, so what's the difference? But anyways, in terms of what you're talking about, in my mind, what you're trying to say is young kids don't want to work, and they don't want to buy a house, they don't want to take care of it. I am not a fan of this old people looking down at the young people and saying this is their faults and this is why America's falling apart. Okay? I sat here and argued with Bob Starkey about this. That could not, in my mind, be further from the truth. Because right now, it's all old people running America. Mm-hmm. It's an old president. It's an old Congress. It is an old local leaders. And it's an entire generation of great people. But we have to realize that we're the ones that are screwing this up, and we deserve the anger and the frustration from the young people whom I see, and I have had 36 in the last 5 years, young, hardworking people, including Lynette sitting there. We cannot do that. We cannot do what you're talking about. It's like Starkey is sitting here and he was livid mad. He's like, I am tired of the people and the Social Security class blaming us and this and that. You know, he's what, 40-some, and even the same thing that is happening amongst many 20-somethings that come through here. They don't even care what we say. They're just tuning us out because we have screwed it up so badly. So when we look at what's going wrong in America, we have to look at ourselves in a certain age group. That's my theory. What do you got to say, Spook?
I have to disagree with you on that, because what has one generation done for the next generation and the next generation? They actually worked hard so the next generation wouldn't have to work hard. Now, as that trickled down, you've gotten people that don't have to work hard because they've been given everything. That's what I'm saying.
No, you can tell yourself
totally
that's
about the old generation, and I think you're totally wrong about the old generation. There's a turnover going on, especially in the Democratic Party. They are getting rid of their old, and it's very obvious. However, some of them are still got the power and the popularity and everything else that goes with it. They're going to stay on their relics, you know. That's the way it is. But no, I rent out houses, and I deal with a lot of people, and I see what it is. They just come in, they're just barely making it. Yeah, you got 50% of the country that doesn't even have $1,000 in their pocket, or they're living from paycheck to paycheck. When I'm renting a place out, I get bigger response almost the end of the week because they don't have the money for their deposit.
Spook, Spook, slow down. First of all, Spook, it's so great to hear your voice again. Honestly, I mean, someone asked me about you.
Well, I wanted to work with you, but with this disaster and such, it tied my hands up. And thanks to my SAQ, I handed everything in her hands so that if something happened to me, she could run and keep things going. She just can't handle the stocks. That's the life. You know, you can't win them all.
Hey, but Spook, Spook, we're going to move on. Spook, we're going to move on. Thank you for calling. It's not the first time you and I have disagreed on something. It's been going for a long time. But, I mean, in all irony, somebody asked me, where's the Spook? And I'm like, God, I haven't heard from him in a long time. Honestly, Spook, I thought you might have passed away. But here you are in the flesh.
Please. I actually died twice. 2015, dead 17 minutes in a community hospital. In 2023, Northwestern, I came out a miracle. Doctors came to my room and said, Jim, you're supposed to be dead. I said, well, I'm not dead. I made some worms unhappy. I'll tell you that right now. But no, I have died twice. And if you don't believe me, check my February 3rd, 2023, I went in for emergency surgery for a tear in my aorta, and it actually hurt my right eye. I lost vision in 3/4 and 2 busted ribs. And I was in the hospital. I got out April 25th with the doctor telling my family he's going to die in 3 weeks. Well, that was 2023. Either I'm a ghost or I'm the real deal. And the spook comes from the group Spooky Tooth, given to me by one of my friends.
Well, hey, it was great hearing from you. We appreciate it. Hope to hear
Thanks,
from
Spook.
you.
We appreciate it.
We hope to hear from you again soon. Yeah, it was even like I
Thank
heard,
you.
The other day, Mickey called in. I used to talk to Mickey every day in the afternoon. I hadn't heard from him in a long time, and he called in, so I'm glad to hear he's still around.
A couple things on his phone call, Chuck.
Yeah. We'll talk about his phone call after this.
Are you searching for a college where you belong? Calumet College of St. Joseph wants to know you and give you the support you need to succeed. Are you worried about how you'll pay for your degree? 95% of our students receive financial aid, including scholarships and grants. Need some extra help with your classes? You'll benefit from our small class sizes, free tutoring, internship planning, faculty mentors, and so much more. Come experience our accepting, supportive college family for yourself. Schedule your campus visit and apply at ccsj.edu.
I'm a victim of being ran over by a semi while I was flagging. The person wasn't paying attention and they hit me with their vehicle.
I seen a accident where we were the first people to walk up, and that picture will never leave my mind.
I've seen people get hit before. It's been horrible.
Construction zones on roadways and bridges are more than just cones and equipment. They're the workplace for thousands of dedicated union laborers.
Everybody has a family that they need to get back home to, so please just pay attention to us out here while we're working.
We all have family, and I know it's a pain in the ass, but we're trying to make the roads better for y'all.
We're doing this for everyone.
We're hardworking Hoosiers, just like you. And we all want to make it home safely.
People would just take a couple seconds to pay attention.
Be aware of where we're at, where the cone zones are at. We're all in this together, and we're all just trying to be safe.
This is Brian Short, business manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Ogren Insurance, Hammond's oldest family-owned independent insurance agency, now in its third generation providing clients in the Chicago area with products from quality insurance companies to handle your every need. Regardless of driving history, Ogren Insurance can find the right coverage for you at competitive prices. To learn more about the insurance solutions and services we offer throughout Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, call 219-933-0076 or visit our website, ogreninsurance.com. We're located at 6929 Homan Avenue in Hammond, Indiana. Do business locally with someone you know and trust.
It's the simplest expression. The smallest thing that changes everything. A smile. So easy. A smile lights it up. Apologizes. And welcomes unconditionally. Because the shortest distance between two people is a smile.
Thank you.
Strachan Van Til, where making life easier starts with a smile.
8:24 in the region. Chuck Pullen here with you. Jim Dietlow wandering aimlessly somewhere in the building. He'll be back here in a moment. But in the meantime, let's take a quick look at traffic and weather because there is some stuff going on. So we had an earlier accident eastbound Borman at Kennedy. It's got things backed up. Right now it looks like backed up to Calumet. So if you're out that way, let us know what it's looking like, if the lanes are open, if things are blocked, etc. But right now, just eastbound Borman a little slow up until Kennedy. Inbound Bishop Ford to the Dan Ryan. Dan Ryan has been a trouble spot all morning. So right now, Bishop Ford's a little slow into the merge. Dan Ryan is slow all the way in. So if you're heading into the city, just expect that. It also, I know it rained earlier, which means that there's going to be water on the Bishop Ford. So it's going to take a while. Other than that, we got some slowdowns, 294 into the 55 area. 80 east and west looks good. So other than the Dan Ryan Bishop Ford and that thing on the Borman, everything else looking good. Lynette, how's the weather?
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 75 degrees with highs of 92, lows of 72. Gonna have a thunderstorm around this morning, otherwise hot and humid with times of clouds and sun. Then tomorrow and Tuesday we'll be having highs of 91 and lows of 73. Should be hot and humid with sunshine interrupted by clouds at times. Then Wednesday we'll be having highs of 95 and lows of 71. Should be mostly sunny, hot, and humid.
Lynette, how's the app?
It's actually pretty much done.
So, how many hours do you think you worked on that?
My entire summer.
So, how does that make you feel when Spook calls in and says, young people don't want to work, they're lazy, they don't want to take care of things? How do you feel about that?
I don't really think that's true for most of us. Maybe some people, but most of us probably not.
Expound on that.
I think it is hard for us to find a job. I got really lucky with this one. I was basically a replacement for a friend that used to work here.
Who's that?
Kemper.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Kemper Fane.
I was lucky. I thought Sam was the boss because he was the only contact info I found on the website. So it was lucky I got interviewed by him instead of you because I know you would have told me that you're not hiring.
So you spent your whole summer. I mean, Lynette's a full-time worker now, so there's no hours or anything. I knew that when we talked about that app project, Chuck, you know this, 3-4 years ago, that would have cost us $50,000.
We didn't even know where to start. We couldn't even find somebody to write the code.
Laurie and I said, hey, Lynette, we need an app. We need to run our whole podcast network off of an app. We don't really need a website. Can you do this? And Lynette looked at us like,
What are you talking about? I mean, it's app development. I mean, people go to college, they get graduate degrees to do that. I go, yeah, but I got a feeling that you could do it by yourself. And you have done it with AI, and we're going to roll it out. I think about 20 people have it on their phone, and it's an amazing thing. I guess what I want to point out in that is I just basically said, like Steve Jobs, you see, here's my iTunes, and here's my phone. You got 2 months. Go put them together. I said to Lynette, I go, here is what we want to do. There's some of the biggest podcast networks and stations in America are doing exactly this. We need to do that. And I need it done in about 3 months. And she had no experience in it. She went and taught herself, built the whole thing during a storm and during producing all of this. To me, that's called work ethic, and you exhibit that amazingly. Adriana can't think enough about doing a podcast network, and she's working over at Cracker Barrel, going in the bathroom, texting us, hey, don't forget about this person, this person's coming in, and she's quarterbacking it from afar.
Don't out her like that. You're going to get her in trouble.
Or she's teaching over here at Purdue and, whatever, and she's still running the whole thing. I mean, look at you guys watch, you don't. I watched ESPN the other night, and Cimino texted me. He goes, man, this is my first night running ESPN. I don't know what happened. He was running ESPN overnight.
And all of a sudden, color bars show up on the screen.
Exactly. That's what I was expecting. I turned ESPN and left it on all night because I knew Cimino was going to screw it up somehow, but he didn't. He goes, yeah, I made it all the way through the night. It was great.
Cool.
There's nobody here. I'm in charge of ESPN, putting everything on. The only way that happens is working your ass off. So when a guy like Spook calls in, it's all about young people, and I agreed with Starkey. Starkey's like, I am so tired of just, here I am in my 40s, and then all these, basically older people are just telling us how life is and how lazy we are and how screwed up we are. You made it that way.
But let's talk about, though, personality, though. I mean, so here's probably my best compliment for Lynette is I never worry about showing up here. I know I can roll in here 3 minutes to air. Everything's going to be on and ready. I never worry that I'm going to roll in here at 5:55 and she's not going to be here and I'm going to get a text, oh, I overslept. There are people in their 40s and 50s that couldn't do what Lynette does, like be consistent, be here. I think you've been late like one time because the trains blocked all of Hammond, right? I mean, there are people, it doesn't matter how old you are. There are people that my age or older that I don't think could do what Lynette does every day. They're not responsible enough to get up every day and show up on time. So again, it's a personality thing. I don't know what it is that gave Lynette. I mean, I assume it was good parenting and having a good family and all those things that made her what she is or whatever it is. Maybe same with us. Like I've never texted you at 6:30. Sorry, I overslept, Lynette. Hope you're doing okay. Right? I mean, you never have to worry about us not showing up. Maybe him.
I'm actually the exact opposite. I used to be in high school. I used to skip school days a lot.
So did I. We all found it. Right. We all did.
What did you do?
Just slept in.
Just slept?
Oh, no. I would pretend to be sick. I would tell my mom, like, I can't go to school today.
Yeah, I used to do that. My mom finally called the police.
It got to the point my teachers would compliment me for attending a whole week.
Yeah. But see, I mean, again, look, whatever it was that changed you, now you're just a consistent person. You're here. We know you're going to be here. We're always here. I mean, that's the thing is like, that's a personality thing. That's the person. So again, for Spook to say this whole, that's a personality thing. And I wish that we could figure out how to bottle that up because there's far too many people that are just sort of like, I was up playing Call of Duty till 3 a.m. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. It's a personality thing more than it's a generational thing. And
I can't disagree with both you and Spook because I hear it a lot where people are ripping on young people.
No, I agree. It's happening.
Because, all right, look at right now. Look at what we have right now. We have all this stuff to build, including data centers, and the unions are all looking for people, right? Miraculously, all of the work gets done. Of course, every union leader I know complains a little bit about the work ethic of the next generation. That is built into the system. I used to go with Don Hamilton over here and sit on the bench on Kennedy Avenue in the 80s waiting so I could operate a jackhammer out of the laborers union. And he would just go, you're probably a lazy piece of blah, blah, blah. And that's just built into the system. I get that. But it's exacerbated right now There are major problems in America, politically, geographically, financially, weather, global warming, and certainly the nuclear threat. All of those things are not created by these young people. They're not
but what I'm
created
saying,
by
okay,
them.
but also Lynette's generation has basically been told, again, hey, there's 12 years left before the climate is destroyed. We're $40 trillion in debt. There's no money for you. You're not going to be able to afford. Like, I don't blame them for not wanting to get out of bed, because we spent their entire life telling them about all the bad things that are happening. Like, why even bother getting out of bed at that point?
My sister is 16 years old, and she has been trying very hard to find a job. She wants to work real bad, and it's just not working out for her. There's no place hiring.
I agree. I mean, honestly, people send me a resume every day. Hey, I'll work for free. I'll be an intern. Cal College, Legacy Foundation, IUN. Don't mention Purdue Northwest, but all these other places they want to pay for you to intern somebody, and I'm like, no, it just doesn't work. And they're like, oh, remember the one woman that did the investigating reporting for Channel 7? She comes in and does Region Angels once in a while. She's like, Jed, nobody in Chicago and the whole area is taking an intern. How are these kids going to get into the... I go, I don't know, but the gap is too far between you come in and then I got to train you for a year before you provide any value, and then as soon as you get value, you're good, you'll go work somewhere else because we got such a reputation now. So what we have to do is just hire people. It's just, that's how it is. Chuck, there's no way in there's no way into this industry, partly because there's less and less people needed because of AI. We're going to look at that app. It's going to be like one of the best apps of any local radio station. And a lot of it was built with AI.
Well, even the example that you use of this studio, this facility 30 or 40 years ago, what were there, 20 plus 30 people in this building? And now there's Lynette and Adriana. I mean, running the whole show, doing
Rick
more.
Kubik.
Well, I mean, again,
Yeah,
here
from
in the
home.
building, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying here in the building, there used to be 20 or 30 people running around this building at any one time. And now there's 2 or 3 people. I mean, I don't know. We're still getting it. We're doing more now than they were back then when it was just AM radio, but I don't know what that means for the future. But again, for those other 20 or 30 people, where are they working now? Are they working at Amazon instead of working in a radio station? In my industry, I'm one of the youngest engineers. Everybody I talk to is in their 70s and 80s. It's like, well, who is going to replace these guys? Who are they training to do all these things? And, it doesn't matter if you're talking about engineering or shipbuilding or working at the steel mill. I mean, it's a problem. And I don't know what it means for the future.
Well, I mean, look at that structural problem right now, okay? Who's going to take over those jobs? Every union and the sports network is sponsored by unions. I'm going to talk to the roofers tomorrow and say, hey, I'll, try to sell them and upsell like I always do. But I want to know, well, what's going on out there? How are we got so much work, especially now with the storm. The roofers has a ton of work, right? And now they got to decide how many people they're going to bring in and then what kind of person they're going to bring in. Every union the world has changed from 5 to 7 years ago, where every guidance counselor at every high school was like, hey, you got to go to college.
Right.
Now they're like, dude, have you thought about the electricians union?
Right.
You could be a carpenter. You could retire at 55 with, a ton of money, but you got to work, right? Well, all these unions are filling them, and many of them are now getting waiting lists of good people that they couldn't get in the past. So there are a lot of young people that want to work hard. They're coming into the unions, they're taking instruction, and then they're establishing themselves and building these things that we need. In other words, they are working hard. I take exception with what Spook says because I hear it a lot, and I'm tired of hearing it about young people not working and this world being their fault.
But we also have that responsibility. I mean, again, my son just started his first. He said, I want. What?
Is he and Tony?
Yes.
I can't say it out loud, can
No.
I? All right, sorry.
That's why I posted that picture.
All right, thank you.
But that's one of just sort of a fun thing he does. But so he started a real job at a grocery store. But it was one of those things where, as a parent, I kept hearing from people, even like I remember Big George before he passed away, he's telling me all the time, I can't find a kid who will just walk in, who knows how to use a broom and can put their phone down. So as a parent, all I could do was say, I want to teach my children. And I told them every time I drop them off at work, I said, put the phone away, make eye contact, shake hands when you interview. Like all I can do as a parent is teach my kids how to succeed. And it's like one of those things, like, are there enough parents out there of my generation that are teaching our kids, hey, put the phone away. Here's how you use tools. Again, like I taught him how to use tools. I'm teaching my daughter, how to be detail oriented. Whether you're cleaning or building something, like, hey, follow here's the instructions. Here's how process, of following through, finishing something you start, all those little things that you teach your kids. And then at a certain point, I'm sending them out into the work world. It's like, God, I hope I taught him well, right? I hope the last thing I want is to get a phone call from his manager going, him getting fired his third day because he won't pay attention or put his phone down or whatever. I mean, that would, to me, would feel like a failure, but I don't know that there's enough parents out there that have taken the time, even like Lynette and I talked earlier about credit card debt and budgeting, and like, have we taken enough time to teach our kids these things, or do we just assume the schools are doing it? So I don't know.
I'm not sure what to make of all of that.
Right.
I mean, look at what we did on Friday night. 12 games on Heartland Sports Network, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of those cameras are young college students. All of those players and coaches are working really hard doing football games, and they have an excellent work ethic and an excellent practice ethic, or they would be kicked off the team by Phil Mason or Romson St. Louis. I cannot abide a 1960s attitude where, oh, look at all these lazy hippies and all that. Well, they're upset with the system and that were built by, fat cats coming out of the war, and they overturned the system. Now, what's going to happen with young people? They should be angry. We have screwed this up royally, and I don't know. I think at some point their anger is going to calcify.
Their hatred for government will calcify. But before we're going to take your calls, but let's do this. Let's take a break, and I promise we'll take some phone calls. We'll be back with more after this.
For over 140 years, the Central Midwest Carpenters have built our communities in Northwest Indiana. Are you ready to join the effort? We have long-term work, competitive pay, and the best benefits in the industry. We pride ourselves on innovative training and commitment to worksite safety. Earn as you learn as an apprentice. A solid career built on a solid legacy. For more info, go to carpenters.com.
But it's time. You gotta catch up. Yeah. I'll catch up with you. I'll be right back. I'll see you in a minute.
Anything else? Yeah.
Well, what's up, boy? Hey, Ryan. Not tonight, man. Not tonight. Oh, yeah. You guys are right. Hey, come on. Let's go. Come in.
For a fast and friendly car wash, go to Easy Clean Car Wash. Open 7 days a week in 4 convenient locations: Highland, Griffith, Cherville, and Lansing. Free vacuuming, air freshener, and a towel with every wash. It's fast, safe, and gentle. For more information and hours of all our locations, visit myeasyclean.com. Also, see how you can wash your car daily with our $10 Ultimate Wash for only $19.99 per month. Give your car the best clean at Easy Clean Car Wash.
Hey Region, I'm T, and I grew up in East Chicago, went to college in Gary, worked out of Munster, and raised my family in Crown Point. I'm Region to the core. I created Region Hot Sauce, the flavor of the region. Add it to chicken, fish, pizza, eggs, and more for the perfect blend of heat and flavor. Visit RegionHotSauce.com for a complete list of locations or to order direct. Region Hot Sauce, the flavor of the region.
Hey, 841 in the region. We're taking your phone calls. Chuck Pullen, Jim Diedlow here, filling in for Bob Starkey, who's on assignment, as we like to say. So we're going to go right to it. Let's take your phone calls. Good morning, caller on the air. Good morning, caller.
Hello.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello.
You can't hear us, or what's the problem? Hello.
Yeah, I don't know if you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead. Say what you're going to say. It's your.
Calling
Yeah.
about
You got a bad connection, man.
Yeah, go ahead, call back.
Call back.
let's
Go by
make-
a window or something and call
Okay,
us
let's
back.
take the next one. Call us back. Okay, next caller. Go ahead. Good morning, caller.
All right.
Is our internet okay?
Hey, this is Marine Pete. How
Hey,
are y'all
Marine
today?
Pete.
Kind of lagging on the hold line. It's kind of crazy.
All right. Hey, Pete, go ahead and say what you're going to say. Say what you're going to say.
I'm going to call back.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so it might be our internet's acting up, which is exactly what we were just talking about over the break about we need redundant internet. We need Starlink. It may be the internet. The internet may be lagging, and maybe that's why we're coming to a grinding halt here.
Yeah, well, I just see that call in studio just recharged. Is there a delay during that recharge time? So, anyways, before we do take some more phone calls, can you show this FEMA thing? Is somebody on the air right now? No, all right.
Just us.
All right, there it is.
Okay.
All right. I've been thinking about this all weekend, Chuck Pullen. FEMA's coming in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was
Just in time.
I was thinking about your situation. Please. All right, here's where they're going to be this weekend and week. All right, FEMA today is going to be at Lake County and the Purdue Extension at 2291 North Main. They're going to be 8:30 to 4:30 tomorrow, and the next 3 days are going to be in Gary at the Steelworkers Hall. Go there and try to get some FEMA money. And then Friday and Saturday, they will be in Munster. And Lynette is showing the flyer right now that actually one of the Munster firemen gave to me. And so here it is. So today, if you're in the Crown Point area, you want to go out and see FEMA 8:30 to 4:30 at the Lake County Purdue Extension. And then Steelworkers Hall for the next 3 days. And then it's going to be at the Lions Club Social Center in Community Park on Friday and Saturday. And I've been thinking about, should I be publicizing it and advocating for people to deal with FEMA, or is it going to be like us dealing with the independent news network that didn't quite understand what radio could do, and it just took us off our game? Are there going to be a bunch of people that go to FEMA and tell your process during the 2008 flood and why you don't have that much faith in what's going to happen here with FEMA?
Okay. Well, I was trying to keep my blood pressure under control this morning, but so after the 08 flood, as people know, I lived in Munster, literally on River Drive, next to the river. I was there like you when the levee broke, when the water came over Columbia Avenue. I was there from start to finish. Had a full basement of water, had a neighborhood full of water for whatever it was, almost a week, and so we were at ground zero of the flooding. And so, fortunately, after the floodwaters receded, we had a lot of help from family and friends and even strangers walking down the street, the local volleyball club, whoever said, what can we do to help? So a lot of people came together to help us. But after that, FEMA came to town and said, hey, we're setting up a tent over on Calumet Avenue. Go wait in line. I waited in line like 8 hours, and they started asking me questions. I said, my house is underwater. Like, what is there to ask? Yeah, I have pictures. I have damage. My house is underwater. And we sat there for 8 hours. We filled out 100 pages of forms. Again, this is pre going on the internet and just clicking a few things. They came to visit, they made appointments and whatever. And it was just it was a several month process. And fortunately for me, as a responsible adult, I had several layers of insurance, including water backup, et cetera, floodplain insurance, normal homeowners, water backup, all these layers. And so, again, I had out-of-pocket expenses. We weren't living in the house for a month, all these out-of-pocket expenses. But again, as a responsible adult that has savings, I was able to absorb that and pay out of pocket to get things started. And so eventually, after jumping through hoops with FEMA for what seemed like months and months, they finally said, well, you don't need anything from us. Like, you're not approved. You don't need anything because your insurance covered it and there's no loss. It's like, what do you mean there's no loss? My entire house flooded. I had a pile of, garbage in front of my house. Like, what do you, basically telling me, sorry, you don't need us. So, well, then who needs you then? If I don't need you, the guy at ground zero of the flooding doesn't need you, who does? Where did that money go? And so that to me is, as you mentioned on Friday, use the term, what did you say? In your time knowing me, it's calcified my hatred for government, which I'm going to put on a t-shirt. And, but again, those are the kind of experiences that I've had with our government. Said, why am I giving you any money? Why am I giving you money? Because the one time I need you or somebody I know needs you, whether it's FEMA or Medicaid or what, whenever we need you, the people that pay the taxes need you, you say, sorry, there's nothing for you. So it's hard to justify paying taxes. And when people say, well, you got to tax the rich and pay more. I've seen where the money goes and I see what they do with it. It's hard to, my eye's twitching. Sorry. Okay. You take over. I can feel my blood pressure. Go ahead. You tap in. Thank you, Jim.
All right. First of all, Chuck, I didn't mean to do that to your blood pressure. I know how this goes. So slow down. All right. Physically take a break, or we just took a commercial break. So I'll talk for a little bit. Okay. So first of all, you did the right thing. You went in and you followed the process all the way. And all the way through it, I was advocating for people to go see FEMA and get some money. All right. I've heard dozens of stories like yours where people went through the process, spent a couple days worth of work, and were unable to get any relief from the government. So when that fireman handed me this, I thought about it. I'm like, all right, so what do I tell people on the air? Do I tell them go to these sites, go through the process, take a day off of work if you have to, and some will? Or do we just say it's so screwed up of a system, I'm not advocating to go see FEMA?
No, I don't want to do that. I want to tell people it's what I want to do is I want to prepare people for the frustration. Just like waiting. I mean, again, just
don't let your eyes twitch.
No, but I mean,
slow
even
down.
like I went through this. We've been trying to get my son like his updated, ID, and like, hey, you didn't have a Social Security. I was trying to find a Social Security card, and then I had to wait months to get an appointment to print a Social Security. It's like, every government agency is such a disaster. Like, how hard is it to go into this? I dropped him off at the Social Security office in Hammond. I said, I'll be back in 2 or 3 hours. You'll probably still not be seen. We waited another hour and they finally said, sorry, you have to make an appointment 3 months from now to get an ID, to get your ID printed. So every government agency is such a mess. Why we put up with it as taxpayers is just baffling. But my point is, you have to jump through the hoops because there are people out there that need the help. You have to jump through the hoops, and I'll buy you a drink on the back end. It's going to be frustrating. You're going to want to pull your hair out. You're going to fill out the same form 5 times, and then they're going to ask you the same questions that are on the form. You're going to want to beat your head against the wall. But you have to jump through the hoops. Jump through the hoops because they may give you something. That's all I can say.
Marine Pete texted me. He said that no one can call in. Are the lines full or something? Yeah. All right.
Okay. So
Chuck,
go ahead.
First of all, everybody here appreciates it. You come in here. We had 12 football games on Friday night that was all germinated over Chuck Pullen caring about what happens here. And I know that you care about this, and I know that your hatred for the federal government is calcifying.
Hatred, yes.
But you need to settle down right now. You're right next to me. I can feel it. I've seen it before where you get overworked up. Chuck brought in Rob Kendall. And I think Rob Kendall is actually, I think it's going to attract another big name here. And, I mean, Rob will talk about very similar to you, although he doesn't say he's a libertarian. You and he are the same dude, if you ask me.
He's the Indianapolis Chuck Pullen.
He is the Indianapolis Chuck Pullen. And Rob knows that he is to give the region news about. He'll even say it. He goes, all right, you guys up in the region, you probably don't know this. And he'll say it on his show.
Yeah.
But it's a statewide show, and he's very happy to be on WJOB. You brought him here, okay? I don't know about his politics. I know that he has had trouble with leadership at other places, but I can usually deal with people that
I said you guys would get along well.
Yeah,
I said you're not going to give him notes at the end of the show. You're going to tell him, do your show, don't cuss, do whatever. I told him, I said, Jim's the best. Lori, Jim, etc. You guys just let him do it. I said, they'll just let you do your show. Do your show, hit the brakes, that's it.
So he's going to talk about many of the things you're talking about. But right now, I just want to settle it down before we take phone calls and rile you up again.
Thank you.
All right, you ready? 219-845-1100. Sorry, Marine Pete, there's too many people on hold. You can't call in. All right, hey, let's take a phone call. Hey, you're on the air right now.
Hey, great. I can do this with all the bleeping. Hey, Chuck, start taking magnesium. Get more salt, not less, and balance it out with powdered potassium. Your blood pressure will stabilize. Stop blaming each other, Regionites. We have an entire population that is so brainwashed beyond belief in regarding to blaming the previous or younger generation is the cheapest argument at most. Look, I've been saying this for years on this station. Boomers and the millennials, you are the exact same. You whine and whine about your have-nots. That's the one reason you can't get along. All you millennials out there, listen up, blaming boomers and want change. Well, then if you're so smart, you would have figured out how to take these so-called old people out. Run a better campaign. Make a bigger splash on your social media for change. I'm so tired of millennials thinking you're owed something or wealth is just supposed to be handed to you by some older generation. They don't owe you crap. My generation, their generation, nobody's. They don't have to give up their wealth and everything they've worked for their entire lives so you can play house. Okay? And for all you boomers out there, especially you young boomers that are trying to be that boomer, stop blaming the younger generations. You raised these millennials. You taught them the communist American rhetoric in your schools. You sent them to the public schools where they teach nothing about how the monetary system works. And I'm sorry, everyone is controlled by money, and the central banks are the issue. And that's how they devalue your money and they devalue your lifestyle. And until you figure out the game is rigged against you, quit blaming everybody. Until you figure out how money works, then you can talk. Why is my generation not complaining? Why is Gen X the one not complaining? It's because we had to work our butts off and we knew we had to. We will never, ever retire comfortably, and we got the most to lose. We got more money than the boomers. We own more land. We have more assets. We have more everything, and we're not complaining about it. We're figuring out how to preserve it. We're not asking for help. Okay? And until you explain to me, all you millennials out there and you boomers, who owns your money and why, you have no room to say anything. Okay? Go start a business. This is America. Quit relying on everyone to give you a job. Go start a business. Get on your precious AI that's falling apart at the seams, just like we said it would, Chuck. When everybody said AI, it's already failing. Ford is getting rid of it. All these companies are getting rid of it. Quit blaming everyone else for the problems and start taking the responsibility for the things that you contributed to, whether it was consciously or non-consciously. You were part of the system. You participated in the system. Quit complaining about it and try to change it. And if the system we have doesn't work, figure out a new technology and a new way to rock it right off its butt and change it. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going through the same thing over and over and over again. And that's what we'll do. We'll discuss it every day here in the morning. We'll have both generations complaining about each other, everybody whining that they don't have enough money, but nobody can figure out what inflation actually means. Nobody can figure out why when the Federal Reserve prints money, you get to buy less. Nobody's asking these questions, Chuck, except who? You and I. And in the end, we're still going to come out the winners. Not that we were even playing the game. We were just trying to help everybody. But we'll get, I'm sure, the flack for it for, I don't know what, sounding the alarm, the Paul Reveres of the world. I don't know. What do you think? Should we just shut our mouths now, Chuck?
The tinfoil hats, as Jim would say. So, hey, Brad, I want to power through some calls.
Yes,
I appreciate it.
All conspiracy.
Hey, for anybody who wasn't up with us,
callers.
Anybody that wasn't up at 6 a.m., go back and check out my interview with David Olivencia, local Munster guy, very interesting guy. We talked about the debt. Again, one of those topics, some people find it boring, but it's the biggest issue we're not talking about. So go back, rewind the YouTube, check that out at 6 o'clock. Let's power through some calls. Good morning, caller on the air. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Just a couple quick comments. I'm a pretty old guy. I'm in my 70s, and it's always been the younger generation was worthless. When there was a rock and roll generation, and then I kind of grew up in the long-haired hippie generation, and none of them were ever worth a crap to the older. But the bottom line, I believe in the old adage fits here just perfectly, that the older you get, the better you used to be. Get off of it. The younger generation's doing a fine job. The cream will rise to the top. The slugs will go down to the bottom. And that's the way it's always been. That's the way it's always going to be. So that's all I got.
No, that's not all you got. Can I out who you are?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is my Uncle Danny. Outside of my dad, he and my Uncle Dennis, they were my childhood heroes and still is. Okay? BA at the Carpenters Union forever. I just have kind of something that's off topic, Danny. My wife says that when we met and we got married 35 years ago, she goes, "You were a Cub fan, and now all of a sudden you're like them both." And I just want to bring out to people, including Dave Kuziak, who just hates the Cubs. I like both of them because of Danny's dad. When I was a little kid, and he was like slowly dying at the veterans home, he would take me up there to Jesse Brown, and I would sit there for hours watching Channel 26 and the White Sox. And my Grandpa Brown, your dad, would just almost the entire game would complain about all the Deedlos that are Cub fans and all the Podcoles, and he's like, screw those Deedlos. That's all they can think of is Cubs, and all those crazy Polish Podcoles, and all they're doing is they're all wearing their Cub stuff. And he was the biggest White Sox fan. So at some point I rediscovered that, God, I was brought up loving the South Side baseball team. And I just want to bring that out, that he has, I know my wife will eventually listen to this. That's why I can tolerate both teams. And it was a great experience. I mean, he died way too young, but that's what do you say to that? Because your dad was the biggest White Sox fan, but you're a Cubs fan. What's going on?
Well, because it's kind of ironic that my dad made you a Sox fan and your dad made me a Cub fan. That's the reality of it. I mean, growing up, when my sister and your dad were dating, it used to really piss my sister off because every date they went on, me and Dennis were with them. He'd come in walking in the door to pick her up and say, are the kids ready yet? And so he made me a Cub fan. My dad made you a Sox fan.
Wow, that's a great one. I love it. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Danny. I didn't
thank you for the call. I just want to chime in on that real quick. It is 9 o'clock in the region. You're listening to AM 1230, 104.7 FM in beautiful Hammond. We've got callers. Let's go a little overtime. I'll be late to the meeting. Go ahead. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, I got a question for you, and no sarcasm involved. You guys were talking about like the Northwest Indiana Command Center, right?
Yes.
That didn't exist.
Okay. Yeah. Well, say if one did exist and they created one, if a hurricane comes through the region and knocks out 90% of the power grid, what good is that going to do anybody?
Well, okay, we did have 95% of NIPSCO out at one point, but the point is, and you can hear it with what Bob talked about or anybody that came in, was this idea of, Bob's trying to find out from NIPSCO who's, what resources are coming, Bob's trying to communicate with NIPSCO. Here's what I need. I need to get my lift stations. I need to get my police station fixed. What do you need from us? Yep. I need to clear a road so that you can come in. Are you coming to this area? Because if you are, I'll send my guys there to clear the road ahead of you, right? I mean, that's the whole thing about communication. Mm-hmm. Or Bob says, hey, I need some skid steers. Or, hey, Dyer Construction has some extra cranes if Munster needs them. I'm not saying we need like a command structure. We need like a colonel to run this disaster. I'm saying we just need to communicate better. I don't even want to say a command structure. I want to say a communications hub, because everybody has resources, everybody has needs, and we just weren't communicating who needed what where. And even for NIPSCO to say, hey guys, there's 1,000 linemen on their way from the East Coast right now. We need to figure out where to put them now. We're assessing. We're trying to figure out where to put them. Who needs what now? So that's all I'm saying. Is we just need to communicate better instead of spending a week going, well, let's figure out who needs what. Let's send some emails back and forth. The quicker we can communicate and respond, the quicker we can get people's power back on and minimize damage when it comes to, again, like when your some pump is out downstairs, you're on the clock, right? We've all been through that. I've been through that multiple times. The power's out, it's raining. I got to figure something out now. Otherwise, I'm going to get water in the basement. So, I mean, stuff like that where go ahead.
The only thing that I disagree with you a little bit on, Chuck, is that I think we communicated great. I think we heard from every leader in every town constantly throughout the whole thing. I think the we part should be adjusted to NIPSCO communication sucked.
Well, again, there needs to be an accountability of like, hey guys, NIPSCO, you need to be at this center every day. We need a guy from NIPSCO, or maybe it's a flooding issue. Hey, repay, we need your guys here every day to communicate what's going on. So again, it depends on the issue. Is it NIPSCO? Is it flooding? It could be whatever. So I mean, again, this idea of we have a place and we need to hold, hey, NIPSCO, everybody's here but you, send some guys over here and them to agree to it. Say, hey, we will have a representative there every time there's a disaster. I mean, that's the whole point. Go ahead.
Kerry, it's Terry, right?
Yeah. What's up, buddy?
How you been, man? Hey, I shot a 38. I shot a 38 at Wicker, and it dropped my 9-hole handicap 2 digits down, and I can't get rid of it. But anyways, what are you like against a command center during a crisis?
No, I'm really not against a command center, but I'm saying throughout this whole thing, I think the local communities did a great job. I mean, between the cleanup and communication and everything like that, and maybe you probably wouldn't even need a command center if your public utility communicated with each community a little bit.
Well, okay, but even going back to the flood, but even go back to the flood, like NIPSCO played a very small part in the flood, but there, I mean, even like when you mentioned the 08 flood, we never talk about the fact that like Briar Ridge flooded, for instance, you know what I mean? Like if it didn't affect you, you didn't know about it. So this idea of just communicating like, hey, Dyer's got needs right now. So, what's going on in St. John, what's going on in Munster, what's going on in Gary, even understanding who got hit the hardest. You know what I mean? Everybody had the storm. They're like, hey, where is ground zero on this? Who got hit the hardest? What was the storm path? Just understanding the damage and being able to process. So like NIPSCO knows, hey, it sounds like the damage went down Ridge Road. That's where we need to focus. I mean, just communicating that and again, you're right. I think we did a great job. And I think the fact that people were coming to us, but our point was just communicating, here's where the damage is, here's where the resources are, here's who was hardest hit. Just communicating what's going on, to me, is the key. When you're in the military, they always say communication is key, right? So I mean, that's all I'm saying, is we just need to find ways to communicate better and faster. And as we learned the day of the storm, we lost communication. We lost data. Jim lost phones. We learned a lot about how we can and can't communicate in a disaster. So, I mean, again, even having that data, we got so reliant on the internet here at the station. When the internet went down, Jim's like, I don't know what to do, right? It's just, I got my phone and I got power and that's it. So we couldn't take phone calls. So, I mean, again, those are things that we learn about communications. We learn a lot. We just need to take that lesson. We'll take those lessons forward with us. So, hey, we got to power through some calls. But go ahead.
Hey, Terry, let me address this one. All right, hang up on him so that he and I don't start talking about golf. You brought something up. I mean, I went around with Steve Shekel to a zillion meetings around the region trying to find a place for a command center, right? And where would it be? And what did you need? You needed space. You needed a generator, so the power, when the whole world's power goes out, you have power, right?
And a way to communicate.
And you need a satellite hookup,
right?
So that when there's no internet, there's no texting, like there wasn't around here. You couldn't even text. And, what is at least that command center is able to process information and say, all right, here's the cranes, send people here. The towns aren't going to know how to do that, right?
Right.
So I agree with the premise, and I went around with Shekel and him and I some other guys going to meetings and trying to find a Kerry Gosh, trying to put it at Gary Airport, whatever. But that's what it needs. It needs constant power, and it needs space, and it needs constant internet and communications. And if you can create that, then when the next thing happens, we would be able to have it available. But no one wants to pay for that.
Right.
And that was the problem. I mean, you brought up a good point here. I would love to have it right here in the WJOB building, because then you go. But radio show that if we had power, we could really communicate
Right.
all of what was going
Because
on.
everything can go down.
The governor came here the
Yeah.
next day. Mayor Van came here 2 days later. I mean, all these people just came here. We didn't even ask them.
But again,
and we appreciated
yeah.
that. But why does it have to be that way? They had nowhere else to go to tell their message.
Right.
Because there was no internet. There wasn't. I mean,
But I'm saying at the end
it
of the
was
day,
awful.
you can, like I said, I got in my car because I had nothing else. I got in the car, I turned it on, accessory, and I sat here and I listened to you guys and called in. Everybody has radios in their car. Again, that's a whole nother story, but even having transistor radios,
Can I address
et cetera. Go
this
ahead.
from Dave
yeah,
Bierman?
hit that real quick.
Darren Washington gives a guest column in the Post Tribune. Aging electrical infrastructure needs to be addressed. I haven't read it yet. I don't have a Chicago Tribune subscription, but I will. I'll go get it. Somebody wants to email a printout of the story. I would love to read Darren Washington's column. You know, I was on that Citizens Advisory Board
Right.
for NIPSCO for 17 years, one of the longest serving ones. And every time they were going to do some sort of upgrade, I'm like, hey, man, you got to remember North County, Gary, Hammond, Whiting, EC. Oh, well, we're going to bury all these cables in Crown Point. Oh, we're going to send this all out to some data centers. And I'm like, well, what about? I mean, all you got to do is drive over here on Indianapolis Boulevard and look at the switching station at NIPSCO and know it hasn't been changed in 50 years
Right.
since I've worked here. There has been, when I worked as a laborer, you would dig down and there would be the oldest crumbling, rusting out wires that I'm like, are those live? Oh, yeah, you know, we don't, you know, it's way down there. No one's going to care, right? I mean, there is, I'm guessing that's what Washington's talking about, especially that came out in Gary.
But again, it's not just NIPSCO, though. It's everything. Every utility, bridge, everything. And we always like to say infrastructure isn't sexy. What happens under the ground isn't sexy. Nobody cares. They care about shiny objects. We don't care about infrastructure until it fails. It could very well, I mean, again, we could have a water crisis. You can have a massive, I mean, go back to the Flint crisis or anything like that. Any of these pieces of infrastructure could fail. You could have a bridge collapse. I mean, all of the infrastructure is aging and we're not talking about it and we don't have the money to fix it. And again, just another problem that our federal government isn't addressing, which is calcifying my hatred. Let's take one more call. Let's take a couple more calls. Go ahead. Caller, you're on the air. Good morning, caller.
Hey, Chuck. Hey, Jed.
Hey.
Yeah, I want you to both of you to read that article.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, send it to me or give me your login or something. I can't read it.
I'll give you one. Okay, go ahead.
There you go. But it's
and Dave, you're one of those people that always says it,
listen.
Dave. Dave, you're one of those people. Infrastructure isn't sexy, right? You and I have been talking about this for a decade now, right? Nobody talks about it, so it fails.
Nobody shows up to cut the ribbon on a new fiber optic cable
or a new sewer line or anything.
Nobody
like that.
shows up to cut the ribbon when they replace a 130-year-old gas line,
right?
Or a sewer line, or it's just not, it doesn't make good press. But Jed, what was that organization you were a member of, the disaster one? What was the acronym for that? What was that?
Northwest Indiana Information Security and Sharing Association or something like that. NISA.
There you go. You know, and I remember you talking about it, and you'd all go to the hangar and have a nice lunch, and you mentioned it a couple times that you talked about if a nuclear bomb hit Chicago, what would we do? But then this organization is going to make sure, well, we were hit. Northwest Indiana was hit with the equivalent of a Cat 2 hurricane bomb. And it didn't go so well. And I still know people without power. I want you both to read that article. It's pretty... It's not a scathing. He's not pointing fingers. He's just telling the truth, and sometimes the truth hurts, right? So I'm glad you both are going to read it, and maybe you can discuss it some other time.
Speaking of discussing it, Dave, I mean, I sat in those meetings with NIPSCO being on that board, and they'd bring the CEO in, and they would talk. It's always a different CEO. They just keep rotating them, and.
Yep.
And I would always be like, hey, listen, I know that you're new to the area or whatever, but, I appreciate all of this development of lines and so forth for people and new industry in South County and in Porter County. And I go, but I think your major problem is your infrastructure in North Lake County, and that's going to, there just wasn't that much return on it. And I'll be honest with you, I left that board. I'm like, no one's listening to me. I'm done. I'm out. And I just left.
Good.
But there are people like Darren Washington or myself saying that we need to concentrate up here on what we have, because if you really think about it, we are really hot right now, and what's going to happen eventually is it's even going to get hotter in EC, Gary, Hammond, Whiting, because there's a density of population. It's going to turn over, and you're hamstrung by old infrastructure. Technology companies want to come up this way. People want to buy homes and redo them, but who wants to do that when you got a 130-year-old water line?
You know what? I'm becoming much more of a being in Gary. I'm becoming much more of a cynic, and
you're calcifying. You're calcifying along with.
But I want you to think. I said, and because we have midterm elections coming, my personal opinion, and I really hope I'm miles wrong, that all of this is going to get drug out till after the midterm elections, so everyone can get reelected in the state, and the regulatory committee for the state, they're going to stay the same. Nothing's going to happen, and then after the first of the year, when the midterms are over, it's going to get forgotten, because NIPSCO does not. You're spot on. NIPSCO does not want to invest anywhere near north of US 30.
Yeah, but it's not just NIPSCO. It's not just NIPSCO. It's not just NIPSCO. I mean, the water systems, the
internet,
everything. It's not just them. I'll pick on NIPSCO because, they're the ones that get picked on right now. Honestly, the linesmen, I could not. I mean, there's heroes there in this last thing that you just can't imagine what some of these guys and men and women have done. And let's give credit where it's due, but think about it. NIPSCO guy there, he's there to make money and send money back to, Columbia, and back to Ohio.
That's NiSource, yeah.
NiSource is supposed to make money. And if you're putting money and you're burying cables in Gary, or you're putting new lines to some of the existing mini mills in Hammond or East Chicago, you're not going to get any more money off of that. So the ROI. So those folks are in a similar difficult situation.
Can I point something out? Remember that why would you invest in the infrastructure? Because when there's a major disaster, guess what? You don't pay for that either. Why? Because FEMA and the federal government showed up and declared a disaster. So NIPSCO is going to get paid back for all of those guys that came in from out of state. So it costs them, it will effectively cost them nothing to rebuild the grid because the federal government's going to pick up the tab. Go ahead.
You guys are going to read in that article about the tracker law, right? That gives energy companies carte blanche to charge us, the consumer, whatever they want, whenever they want. They have to pay their employees, but guess who pays all these crews coming from all around the United States?
It's all federal reimbursement, right?
And that's all explained.
It's all built into the
tracker law was devastating.
So it's all built into the disaster declaration. Why would I spend the money rebuilding something if the government's going to pay to rebuild it when a storm comes through anyway?
We got to call it a day. Thanks a lot, Dave. Hey, I'm sorry, everybody that's waiting. You could take them, but I have a meeting here at 9:30. I got to prep for.
That was fun. That's fun. Yeah, I got to go put some ice on my eye that's about to bulge out of my socket. But no, it's fun.
I should not have brought.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's
that
fine. We need to do
FEMA
it.
situation. They're at Crown Point today. They're going to be at Gary in the next 3 days, and then the last 2 days are going to be in Munster at the Social Center and Community Park.
Please, if you need them, if you need it, if you're in a situation where you are faced with expenses you can't afford, please go there. Please don't take my experience. I'm preparing you. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be painful. It's like going to the DMV, but stretched out over weeks and months. But if you need them, go do it.
Thanks a lot to Lynette Lopez, who's going to roll out an app here in the next couple of weeks. We appreciate that. But most of all, thanks to you for being around for 103 years. Until next time, see you later.